Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for April 21st, 2014. Welcome to everyone that is with us tonight. We appreciate you all being here. As a reminder, if you have a cell phone or some type of mobile device, please check it now and put it on vibrate or silent so that it doesn't go off during the meeting. We would greatly appreciate that. We begin our meetings with a presentation of colors, and as all the parents in the room know, it's spring break, and so we don't have a Boy Scout or Girl Scout troop with us tonight. So as a group, I would like to ask all of you to rise with us. Our U.S. flag is here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to call up Reverend Alan Thompson from Center Grove United Methodist Church. And Alan will lead us in our invocation. Welcome.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Most gracious Heavenly Father, over these last 40 days of Lent, we have been intentional in prayer and in meditation and reflection and self-denial. We have looked inwardly at those places where we experience distractions and those places where perhaps we're being called to change. Over these next 50 days of Easter, we pray for the clarity and vision to see those places that we're called to go and those places we're called to serve. Tonight we come humbly into this place with thankful hearts, thankful for the blessings in our lives, the people you have surrounded us with, and thankful for the opportunities you have provided us to serve. Tonight, O Lord, we give thanks for those whom have committed to the leadership of Cabarrus County. We give thanks for those who have offered their lives to serving their neighbors as committed public servants each day in this county as well. Tonight we pray our blessings over all who are gathered in this place, and our prayers are for this community. Grant that your discernment, your wisdom, and your love would guide our time together tonight. Let our attention be fixed upon you. Let us walk together in faith with the certainty of your presence. In the name above all names we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Alan. Commissioners, the first thing that we have is approval or correction of the minutes that you have been provided. So at this time, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have approval of the agenda. There are a few changes that you will note on the agenda. So at this time, I'd accept a motion to approve the agenda, including the changes.
Madam Chairman, I would like to make two motions to the agenda, to amend the agenda. First is I would like to add general comments by board member section to D right after C, so that the board members can have an opportunity to address the members of the public.
Okay, so you want to move item J, which is normal, the general comments? Is that what you're asking to do?
We can leave item J, but I'd like to add at least another section to D. And that way, if anybody has any other comments at the end of the meeting, that'd be fine. But I'd like to put a general comments by board member section in front of D.
Okay.
And then my second amendment is with respect to the aging of the adoption of the aging strategic plan. I would like to take that off of the consent agenda, and I would move to table that until the summertime when we have a better opportunity to look at that. We had discussed that some and in terms of our work session, and I think we need to spend a little bit more time on that. It's a pretty comprehensive plan that would involve the creation of 6 subcommittees and things like that, and I think we need to spend a little bit more time looking at that.
That is item number F5, is that what the one? I just want to make sure I have the right one.
F5.
Okay, so can you phrase all that in the form of a motion? I presume you wanted to make the motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we add a new item D, general comments by board members, and I move secondly that we table item F5 from this agenda to the summertime agenda.
Is there a certain time, is there a certain month that you want to pick for summer that, so we'll know to kind of put it on there?
I
June,
suspect
July?
July would probably be the
July.
right time.
Okay. Commissioners, everybody understand the motion? Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have recognitions and presentations, and Commissioner Burge is going to go down and help with that. So first, I'd like to call up Alan Thompson again in your other capacity. And do you want me to call up Allison Smith, please, and family members that are here?
Captain Allison Smith was hired on April 15th in 1985, beginning her long career and impactful career with Cabarrus County EMS. She retires on April 28th, having served her community and her profession well as a paramedic, as a mentor, as an educator, and as a compassionate provider. She has served as a volunteer and full-time provider, offering her services in a way that have provided a ray of light to those experiencing bad days. She's been very active in community education and in provider education, specialty teams, and with community volunteer groups such as Meals on Wheels. She's truly an example of what it means to accept the EMS profession as a way of life rather than as a job. She attained a degree in emergency medical science and obtained her National Registry paramedic credential, always setting the example in professional development and in care and in job performance. I cannot think of another person who has always been so positive, and she always has a smile on her face. She truly embodies the concept of servant leadership. Allison, you have left your mark on this profession, your patients, and Cabarrus County EMS. Thank you. In appreciation for your 29 years of faithful service and dedication, we will forever be grateful for your constant inspiration, your shared insights, your faith, and your guidance. And Commissioner Burge.
On behalf of this commission, board, and the citizens of Cabarrus County, we want to thank you for all your years of service and wish you the best in retirement.
Thank you very much.
Allison, did you want to say anything? Sorry. Do you
This has been a great, fantastic place to work.
come all the way up so we can make sure you're on the microphone?
It has been a great and a fantastic place to work. Thank you always for your support and guidance with us, and always supporting us and making us feel like that we're a big part of this county and part of the county government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call up Sheriff Riley. Is here, and Timothy Culp, if he will come up, please. And any family members that you have with you, if they'd like to come up too. Oh, come on, we need to get you on camera. Come on up, don't be bashful.
First, I'd like to thank you for recognizing those men and women that serve the community in the way that not only EMS but law enforcement and all the divisions within county services means a lot to them for you to recognize the blood, sweat, and tears that they have blazed a trail for us to follow, and we appreciate that. I'll start out by saying that Tim, or Sergeant Culp here, has served 28 and a half years here, and he's leaving with a full 30 years of credible service with his sick time. During that time, Tim started in 1985 and has served 7 years on patrol, and then after that he served the last 21 and a half years as a crime scene officer. One of the things that is particularly impressive about that is that he was the lone crime scene officer until about a year and a half ago, which meant that for 20 years of service that he served during that time, he was on call 24/7, 365 basically for any crime scene. And there were often times that I was out there with him and watched his work, maybe not as long as he, but and then he would work tirelessly and then come right back in the next day and do his job. And he did that never with any gripes or any moans or any complaints. He kept just showing back up. And I've had the pleasure, personal and professional pleasure, of working alongside of Sergeant Culp for the last almost 24 years from my side. And I've learned a lot from him, and we've had a great relationship along the way. And like I told him, we'll not look to replace you, because I don't think that's doable. But we'll certainly have to find at least 2 people that can carry the wagon that he was carrying. He's done a fantastic job, and he's accomplished a lot. He's recognized in the state of North Carolina as one of the finest, if not the finest, crime scene officers that I know. He is a model for most agencies that are looking to enhance their crime scene areas. I never one time worried, even when we moved over into the new facility. We turned to him, and he dotted every I and crossed every T in getting things set up the way that we needed to be set up for the future of crime scenes as well. And Tim, you're going to be missed, and like I said, personally and professionally, I'm going to miss you myself. And he says he'll still be around if we need him for some help, but give him a little bit of time to rest. And I think he's going to spend a lot of his time with his family. And I'd like to recognize at least his immediate family. His wife Marie has been there and very supportive, and it takes that in our profession to have a family of support. And he's got a daughter, Caitlin, a son, Adam, that couldn't be here, and then son, Braxton, who also is a proud member of the sheriff's office as well. So he's raised a family within our department as well, and that certainly means a lot to us. Tim, thank you and congratulations. Look forward. He's still got a couple days left to work this month, so. But anyway, we certainly are going to miss you, and I think that the commissioners
Tim, on
have
behalf of this commission board and the citizens of this county, thank you for your years of service, and wish you the best in retirement. God bless you.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Cabarrus County.
Next, I'd like to call up Lundy Covington for a recognition.
Good evening, Commissioners. I have Joanna Ray, our Cabarrus County Health and Wellness Manager, here with me, and she is going to display something while I talk about it for a few moments. We were honored this year, for the second year, last 2, to receive recognition from the Charlotte Business Journal as one of the healthiest employers. This award has been given out by the Business Journal for the past 4 years, and we've entered for the past 2. The title sponsor, the Healthiest Employer LLC, is a wellness organization that sponsors this award in about 40 large markets. They're an Indianapolis-based wellness company, but they also use academic and medical and business individuals to help them with the scoring of this award. The application is based on 6 different categories or criteria: culture and leadership commitment, foundational components, strategic planning, communication and marketing, programming and intervention, and reporting and analysis. As a whole, the Charlotte market has averaged better than the national average, scoring a 60.62 versus a 58, which is the national. Cabarrus County actually scored an 80.3, so we were very pleased not only to be above that Charlotte score, but to receive this honor. We were in the large employer category. There were 16 finalists selected, and these companies have 500 or more employees, so it's a very large category with a lot of healthcare organizations, which you would think would have an advantage. The final ranking was revealed at a recent recognition event, and that's when we received this award. Last year, we came in 6th place, and this year we were pleased to up that to 4th place overall. We were following behind Caremont Health, which was number 1, a Gaston County health facility, Accenture Consulting, and Mecklenburg County being number 3. So again, very pleased to score. In addition to our strong score, I just want to share a key stat that I think helped us in achieving this award. 99% of our employees have participated in at least one wellness program this year. So I think we can honestly say that we are touching all of our employees in some way with this program. I want to recognize Joanna Ray because I think much of this goes to her efforts. While it seems like this recognition has come about very quickly, Joanna has been in this role since 2007, shaping this wellness program. So not only her efforts, but also the support we've been able to receive from you as well as county management. I'd also like to bring Pam Dubois up, and she is going to receive an award we picked up on her behalf at the presentation. Pam was recognized as the healthiest CEO in the Charlotte market. To receive this honor, she had to go through a health screening, some questionnaires, and some biometrics. And I can't tell you how many others entered, but we are sure there was some healthy competition. Novant Health actually did the screening. And those are just what the stats showed. Her award was based on her scores, but what we can honestly say from the wellness program is that not only Pam, but Mike and Jonathan have all been very important in helping us with this program. The purpose of the award this year was to recognize those who are leading by example. And the point was, without that strong leadership from the top, wellness programs can't flourish. So we want to thank Pam for that. And I think she might have a few words to say in support of wellness, or to tell us about her award.
Just to take a few moments, Joanna has done a great job with the wellness programs here at the county, and a lot of participation by the employees and a lot of heated competition. But in regards to my award, she used to be in the office across from me, so she broke my cheeseburger habit. So I think that had something to do with the healthiest award. But she's been a great inspiration to all of us employees to become more healthy, to try to do things better. And we've got a lot of great cases of employees who've lost a lot of weight, have improved their health, who've cut down on their medications, who've had early detections of disease. And you can't put a price tag on that. And I mean, I know we've made a lot of changes to our health care plan, but she has been very beneficial to these programs and wellness centers and reminding us of the classes that are offered so we'll show up. And so it's been very, very good for the community and for the county. So I'm appreciative of that. So I give this party to you also. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, if you will look on page 55 in your agenda. Thank you. We have Older Americans Month is May 2014, and we have a proclamation to adopt, so I'm going to read that for you today. Safe today, healthy tomorrow. Whereas Cabarrus County Senior Centers Advisory Council is committed to the 59,603 Cabarrus County older adults and adults with disabilities ages 60 and older projected as of July 1, 2033. And whereas Cabarrus County Senior Centers Advisory Council is committed to recognize older adults and adults with disabilities for their contributions and provide them with information to stay engaged, healthy, and active. And whereas the older adults and adults with disabilities are at a higher risk of unintentional injuries and even death, and whereas our older adults and adults with disabilities are active community members involved in volunteering, mentorship, arts and culture, and civic engagement, and whereas our community can provide opportunities to allow older adults and adults with disabilities to focus on injury prevention by emphasizing the importance of older adults to stay active, engaged, and healthy, presenting opportunities for older adults to participate in healthy living programs and resources, recognizing older adults as a valuable asset in strengthening the Cabarrus County health and safety initiatives. Now, therefore, we, the undersigned members of the Cabarrus County Senior Centers Advisory Council, do hereby proclaim May 2014 to be Older Americans Month. We urge every Cabarrus County citizen to take time this month to recognize older adults and adults with disabilities and to use this opportunity to raise awareness about this critical issue of their safety to live longer, healthier lives. And that's the one that they passed, which is the same that we have. So I need a motion to adopt the proclamation. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And I'd also like to ask, if you are here as a member of the Cabarrus County Senior Centers Advisory Council, will you stand, please? I know we have some members here. Thank you all for bringing this to our attention. Next, we have a proclamation for Cooperative Extension, Centennial Proclamation. This is a longer one. Whereas May the 8th, 2014 marks the centennial of the signing of the Smith-Lever Act, which established Cooperative Extension, the nationwide transformational education system operating through land-grant universities in partnership with federal, state, and local governments. And whereas U.S. Senator Hoke Smith of Georgia and U.S. Representative A.F. Lever of South Carolina authorized the Smith-Lever Act to expand the vocational, agricultural, and home demonstration programs in rural America by bringing the research-based knowledge of the land-grant universities to the people where they live and work. And whereas the North Carolina Cooperative Extension in Cabarrus County is a critical component of the three-part land-grant university mission and works collaboratively with research and academic programs associated with the North Carolina State University and North Carolina A&T State University to reach traditional and underserved audiences in all communities across North Carolina. And whereas the Smith-Lever Act requires a partnership between county, state, and federal governments and encourages priorities be established locally to meet the needs of each county. And whereas North Carolina Cooperative Extension education disseminated through Cabarrus County for agriculture procedures has helped establish North Carolina as a leading agriculture producing state. 4-H youth development has reached millions of youth and helped prepare them for responsible adulthood by equipping them with citizenship and leadership skills. Family and consumer sciences has prepared people for healthy, productive lives and breaking the cycle of poverty. And whereas North Carolina Cooperative Extension in Cabarrus County engages in rural and urban learners through practical, community-based, and online approaches, resulting in acquisition of knowledge, skills, and motivation to strengthen the profitability of animal and plant production systems, protect natural resources, help people make healthful lifestyle choices, ensure a safe and abundant food supply, encourage community vitality, and prepare the next generation of leaders. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners recognizes the significance of the Smith-Lever Act to the establishment of Cooperative Extension nationwide, encourages the people of Cabarrus County to observe and celebrate the centennial with a focus on congratulating the accomplishments of the past 100 years and ensuring a thriving future for Cooperative Extension, honors the local extension agents and university faculty who dedicate careers to provide a trusted education to help people, families, youth, businesses, and communities solve problems, develop skills, and build a better future. Thanks Cooperative Extension volunteers who provide thousands of hours to promote excellence for 4-H, master gardeners, family and consumer sciences, and other programs in their communities. Encourages continued collaboration and cooperation among federal, state, and local governments to ensure Cooperative Extension's sustainability as the nation's premier non-formal educational network. Celebrates millions of youth, adults, families, farmers, community leaders, and others who engage in Cooperative Extension learning opportunities designed to extend knowledge and change lives in North Carolina, Cabarrus County, and commend this observance to all. May I have a motion to approve the proclamation? I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And at this time, I would like to ask any staff and volunteers from the Cabarrus County Cooperative Extension to please rise. I know we have a number of them here.
Madam Chair and fellow commissioners and county staff, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to kick off this celebration of our centennial of Cooperative Extension with you this evening. I'd like to start off, we have a short presentation we'd like to give you, and I want to introduce two of our key volunteers who are going to share a couple of thoughts, and then I'll follow it up with another thank you and introduce our staff to you personally. First, Tommy Porter, who is the current chair of our Cooperative Extension Advisory Council, will speak, and then he'll be followed up with Gail Linker, who is a longtime volunteer with our 4-H program and the Family and Consumer Science program.
Thank you, Robbie. Good evening, Commissioners. Madam Chairman, when you read the proclamation, you took my entire speech. So all of that is true to my knowledge. So, but honestly, everything you read, I have witnessed in my time here in the county as with Cooperative Extension. It reaches out with its many arms and fingers to all walks of life in the county as far as food safety, preparing food, growing food. I can speak more to myself as a farmer in the county from bringing information from the universities, from the research stations. As farmers, we're too busy just trying to do what we do. We don't have time to go out and do all the research, and so that is a vital part of bringing information back to agriculture in the county. And as I'm sure you all know, agriculture in North Carolina is somewhere between, I think it's around a $76 billion industry now. And those of us in the county, we like to think that Cabarrus County plays a big part in that. So I won't take up any more time, but I am honored to be chairman of the advisory board for Extension. Thank you for your time.
Well, between Tommy and Robbie, I don't have much to say, but I do want to give you a little bit of perspective. And my name is Gail Earnhardt Linker, and I'm a lifelong resident of Cabarrus County, and I'm so excited. Just think, 100 years of Cooperative Extension service making a huge positive difference in the lives, young and old, of generations of Cabarrus County residents and families. That's awesome. My family and numerous others like them have had years where they've relied on the Cooperative Extension Service and the opportunities that it has presented to them to improve the quality of life and indeed make a living. As a young 4-H'er, I remember cutting out and sewing together my green and white 4-H uniforms and proudly wearing them to all kinds of county, district, state, and even national meetings, demonstrations, and related activities. Involvements that taught me, as I learned by doing, to communicate with others as well as other basic life skills. Like many others, I was guided by those 4-H's, head, heart, hands, and health, in our pledge, which I hope many of you were 4-H'ers and you know that pledge. The wisdom of those words guided countless young people, and we developed into young men and women who became and are productive, responsible adult citizens. I'm excited that Cabarrus County, that the 4-H organization continues today to guide, develop our youth to become productive adults. And I'm also excited about 100 years of Cooperative Extension's ECA's existence in Cabarrus County. Currently under the guidance of Extension's Family and Community Consumer Science Program and agents, its strong mission strengthens families and communities through leadership development, volunteer work, educational support, and research-based education. Like the entire Cooperative Extension Service, this progressive volunteer organization empowers people and provides solutions that improve the quality of life for all people in Cabarrus County. I'm excited to be a part of Cabarrus County's ECA, whose members just last year, in 2013, gave 53,117 volunteer hours of to nonprofit groups and others in Cabarrus County. The value of those hours to Cabarrus County was $1,173,796. I challenge you to keep Cabarrus County Extension Service's positive excitement going and growing for the next 100 years.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you, Tommy, for speaking on behalf of Extension. I just want to again thank you, commissioners and county staff, for the opportunity to come and to kick off our celebration for the centennial this year. There'll be several events that we'll hold throughout 2014 and recognizing the great work of Cooperative Extension. You saw the many volunteers, parents, and supporters who are here tonight, but I do want to take just a moment, if I can, to recognize our staff, just so that we can put a face to the name of those people who do work with these volunteers. And so if I have them to please stand and come to the front, and I will call them as they do, starting with Pam Uten. She manages and works with our Family and Consumer Science program.
Thank you, Robbie.
David Goforth, he manages and works with our Extension Horticulture program. Tracy LeCompte, she manages and works with our Extension 4-H Youth Development program. Minnie Mitchell Bishop, she manages and works with our Community and Rural Development program. Beverly Bolenbecker, she manages our 4-H after-school program, and I do want to mention that Beverly received some national recognition this year for her work on the 2013 National Science Day experiment, where she involved over 3,000 Cabarrus County students in that experiment in just one day, and received some great recognition for that. And Carl Pless, who is our agricultural agent, supervising and managing our livestock and field crops program. Carl also will be receiving national recognition from his fellow agricultural agents at the National County Agricultural Agents Association this summer with the Distinguished Service Award. And so we're excited to have him as a part of our staff. Christine Barrier is our administrative assistant and keeps all of us in line and organized. And did I miss anybody? Oh, I did, yes. And then we have another support staff member who is not here at the moment. She was out sick today. But I do want to thank the staff and, of course, the volunteers for all the work that they do to help Cooperative Extension and do the work that we are able to do here today, and to continue that forward for another 100 years. So thank you so much.
Okay, now we have Cabarrus County Emergency Services Week proclamation. This one's not as long. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services team consists of emergency physicians, emergency nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, and others, and approximately 2/3 of all emergency medical service providers are volunteers, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education, enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas Americans benefit daily from the knowledge and skills of these highly trained individuals, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, and now therefore be it resolved that we, the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18 through 24, 2014 as Cabarrus County Emergency Medical Services Week. May I have a motion to adopt the proclamation? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And next, I'd like to call up Dennis Testerman. I know I saw you, Dennis. There you are.
And I simply would like to introduce to you Vicki Porter, the chairman of our Cabarrus County Soil and Water Conservation District Board, to make some remarks on the occasion of Soil and Water Stewardship Week coming up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, fellow commissioners. I believe this evening I only have another fellow board member with me, and that is Associate Member Tommy Porter. I don't think any other soil and water members are here. Our Conservation District Board and staff serve both the incorporated and unincorporated areas of Cabarrus County. We are in the midst of celebrating our 75 years of service to this county, including 50 years as a single county conservation district. According to the most recent Cabarrus County Community Survey public opinion poll, residents rank protecting water quality and the environment as their top priority for county leaders. Our district exists to encourage the informed and responsible stewardship of the land and all of its natural resources. The vision is echoed by the first goal in your strategic plan, namely, preserve and enhance the quality of life by addressing growth with sound public policy that sustain resources, provide high-quality services, and fund infrastructure needs. Our approach to environmental stewardship is locally led and voluntary. We are actively engaged in addressing the following 4 strategic priorities, that being community conservation, conservation education, land use planning and conservation easements, and farmland preservation. Earlier today, we met with staff on a farm that is being considered for a conservation easement that will permanently protect this land so that it will continue to provide the food and fiber for generations to come. This project is a good example of how local, state, and federal resources are combined to provide financial and technical conservation assistance with county tax dollars, leveraging over $2 for every dollar invested. The Cabarrus Soil and Water Conservation District encourages you to think about your personal responsibility to be good stewards of natural resources during its annual Soil and Water Stewardship Week celebration. The National Association of Conservation Districts, NACD, has proclaimed April 27th through May 4th as Stewardship Week, marking the 59th year of the national event. The 2014 Stewardship Week theme is Dig Deeper. Mysteries in the soil. The stewardship concept involves personal and social responsibility, including a duty to serve, to learn about, and improve natural resources as we use them wisely, leaving a rich legacy for future generations. Through conservation agreements, conservation plans, and conservation easements on cropland, forest land, and grassland, we are working to ensure the sustainability of food and fiber production in our county. Environmental stewardship involves personal and social responsibility, including a responsibility to learn about and improve natural resources as we use them wisely, leaving a rich legacy for future generations. Being good stewards of our natural resources at home and in our communities is an important responsibility for each and every citizen. Our Conservation District Board and staff look forward to our continued partnership with you in improving the quality of life in our county. And I appreciate, once again, your all's support of the efforts that we do to do that in this county. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to read the proclamation. Do you want to say anything else first? Okay. Commissioners, you'll find that on page 65. Soil and Water Stewardship Week 2014 proclamation. Dig deeper, mysteries in the soil. Whereas fertile soil and clean water provide us with our daily sustenance, and whereas effective conservation practices have helped provide us a rich standard of living, and whereas our security depends upon healthy soil and clean water, and whereas stewardship calls for each person to help conserve these precious resources, therefore, we do hereby proclaim April 27th through May the 4th, 2014, Soil and Water Stewardship Week. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, the next item we have is informal public comments. He wants to do that after. He wanted to be able to make comments afterwards, correct? Oh, I apologize. I wrote it down as after. I thought you wanted to do it after we had this. That's why I asked. Okay. Okay, so I would open it up to general comments by board members then.
I'll start by saying I've spoken to a number of people before I came to this meeting this evening, and a number of you guys are in this room this evening. And I want to speak to each and every citizen that's in this room and anyone that's watching. And it's in regards to our meeting that we had last Wednesday, our special called meeting. And there's been concern and information that has been put out that we are going to completely cut county services. And I want to tell you that is absolutely not the case. There's not any one commissioner on this board that I feel would vote to close the library, close the senior center, close the park, shut down Cooperative Extension. That is just absolutely not going to happen. And I just want to make that clear, and I want everyone to hear it. You know, we hear so much information via email or word of mouth, and I want to make it clear that you're hearing it from the source tonight, that we're not going to close down, cut the libraries completely out. EMS, the Sheriff's Department, any of those discretionary services, we are not going to completely gut that. That is just not going to happen. We, I have family members that use the libraries, that use the parks. I use them myself. I know Cooperative Extension does great things. And so, I'm involved in this as a member of the community. I'm aware of all the services that are provided. And I want to repeat myself. I would just want to make sure that this is clear, that no commissioner on this board would vote to close the library, shut down senior center, close Cooperative Extension. It's just not a reality. It's not going to happen. If anything, we've seen more of a commitment from this board. I believe it's 5-0 vote that we expanded the senior center so you'd have more spaces for programs. We also made a commitment to move forward with the Midland Town Library. So if anything, we've seen commitments from this board and not any sort of idea that we're going to completely gut services. So I want to make sure that is abundantly clear.
I would also like to say I have been the one to basically put forth the Cash for Schools plan, and I will not do that plan if it requires us to close down the libraries and close down the parks and lay off our paramedics and things like that. What we have done with the Cash for Schools plan is utilize the surpluses, and then also, as I've mentioned time and time again, I went through the budget and found inefficiencies, found where we had over budgeted, things like that. It's 139 pages, and we've incorporated some of those already. We're going to use the budget process over the next month in order to figure out where we can reprioritize some funds to pay for schools. And if it requires us to close down libraries, we're not going to do it. But I want to tell you what's really going on here. I'm going to read something to you. First and foremost, I want to apologize for any false, inaccurate, or misrepresentation of factual information that may have been distributed to you from our library staff. Now, see, what's been going on in the background that I haven't come and talked to you about because it was mostly affecting me and not affecting you, was that for about the last 10 weeks, Chairman Poole, Commissioner Morris, County Manager Mike Downs, and senior staff have been working together to disseminate false information. They've been using deceptive practices to create a series of crises for the last 10 weeks. And this all plays into it, and I'll show you exactly how. So on February 25th, I came home from my house and found 4 emails about the library. And what we found out that day, I got to work on it. Commissioner Morris and our library staff had used county resources to initiate and spread a lie that a county commissioner was proposing to cut $30 million out of the budget. In fact, since December 2013, the biggest proposal was to reduce expenditures by $12 to $13 million. They multiplied that number by 3 times in order to scare you. And this memorandum right here is the result of that activity because I got to work on figuring out where that information came from. And by the end of the day, I had known already that Commissioner Morris and the library staff was behind it. And again, it reads, first and foremost, I want to apologize for any false, inaccurate, or misrepresentation of factual information that may have been distributed from you to you by our library staff. Later on, it says, while the staff and our board have explored increases and decreases in funding for future budgets, the amount of $30 million in decreases has not been recommended by any of our board members. It was just a blatant lie. On Friday, January 31st, after we had passed funding to fund schools with cash, Commissioner Morris told the newspaper that we did not have the money to pay the teachers for the increase we had just passed. We had just given them that 20% supplement increase. He said, they gave away all that money. Now we don't have any money to pay it. In fact, what happened was 2 days later, we fully funded the entire teacher increase at our work session. On March 12th, Chairman Poole falsely alleged that I told Kannapolis City Schools chairman something that I did not. It just so happened that Mr. Adams was sitting in the audience that night and declared in front of everyone that I had never said anything like that to him. And now what you come upon is the meeting of last Tuesday, whereby they unilaterally called that special meeting, not on a regular board night. They unilaterally called it on a Friday afternoon and gave us no notice of it, did not talk to us about it beforehand. I'm going to say this emphatically. No commissioner has proposed cutting any of the services described on Tuesday night. The point of calling that special meeting on that Tuesday night was to manipulate a large group of people to come and speak tonight. You look around, it seems to have worked. Commissioners Poole and Morris and County Manager have been using this pattern and practice of deception to create a series of false crises because they want to steal the election from you, the voters. Now, what we have done, myself, Commissioner Morris, Meesmer, and Larry Burge have pointed out a series of things, such as the fact that we constantly hear that our staff has 78 years experience. Well, if you've got 78 years experience managing a county, how do you come up with a budget that funds $0 for new school construction over the next 5 years? There's an article in the newspaper today, 5% growth since 2010, and we've got $0 budgeted for new schools. Now, how can you tell me that's effective county management? They have put us hundreds of millions of dollars in debt and want to put us hundreds of millions of more dollars in debt. They have raised your tax rate. They have raised your taxes. Your tax rate is 25% higher than it was 10 years ago. So we have pointed all of these things out, and there is an accountability factor that's starting to grow in this community, and they just can't have us on this board anymore pointing those things out. And so they've come up with this practice to get rid of us. Now listen, I'm a big boy. I can take these things about me, but I'm not going to let county staff and 2 commissioners take this election away from you. You all have worked too hard for this election. You all deserve to be heard, and I'm not going to let deceptive practices take this from you. Now, I want to just point one more thing out to you. You remember the government shutdown from just less than a year ago? What did the government shut down? They shut down the things that hurt you the most. And you know why they did that? Because you were political pawns to them. Because they wanted to hurt you so that you would be outraged. And I'm tired of seeing things like that. We are people. The government belongs to us. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. So we are going to stand up and we are going to fight for you. And if they want to call me divisive, well, guess what? When you're going to take this election from the people of Cabarrus County, I'm going to be divisive.
Have a seat, please. Have a seat, please. Do you want to say something, Commissioner Burge?
Yes, I do. You know, what surprises me about county staff is I've heard we don't have time to get our work done, but yet they had time to put out a special letter and personally bring it to each one of our houses. And this took time, took county money, took staff that the county taxpayers is paying for, when all I needed was a telephone call. I'd have been here. I didn't need no special letter delivered to me at all. The other thing that surprises me is the fact that on the 75 years of experience could only come up and cut things that are going to harm the majority of the citizens. Very few things in this is going to have anything to do with the county staff. And what I wonder is why every time we talk about cutting a dime out of the budget, it's the same old thing. We're going to shut down the parks. We're going to shut down the senior center. We're going to shut down all this other stuff. Everything's got to be shut down. The only thing they didn't shut down this time, they didn't take the deputies' cars away from them. I'm surprised they didn't do that. But it's the same old thing. Every time you don't take $1 out of this, it's always, we got to have more money. It's got to come out of your pockets. And it's as though they're saying, I felt like the other day in that meeting, what they were saying is, taxpayers work for us, we don't work for y'all. And I think it's time to stop. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Excuse me. The reason you got the letter is the statute says that you have to get a letter, and it has to be hand-delivered. That's the only reason you got it. You could ask the county attorney, that's the reason for it. The reason for the meeting is that you three made a motion that outlined exactly what staff needed to do. You were all aware that there was a valid reason for us not to be able to have it at our regular meeting. So we had a meeting to make sure that staff had worked very hard on it to get the information out. That's all it was. You can make all the accusations. Early voting starts Thursday. I'm sure that's what this has to do with. And you can make all the accusations you want and walk away from it. That's perfectly fine. But I'm not directing this straight at you. Okay? You have been very kind to me for the 3.5 years that you've been sitting up here in your seat. And I've said that publicly to a lot of people.
But I just felt like what was done last Tuesday was for the news media. They were here,
No, it was done to make sure that information that was requested was given out. And to make sure, at our meeting last week, there was a comment that the item was going to be pulled off of tonight's agenda. So to make sure that you got what you had asked for, which is what you said, you wanted the information. That was the reason you voted for the motion, is to make sure that you had the motion, had the information. That's all it was. Follow the stipulations. So, Commissioner Morris, do you want to, we don't normally make comments at this time. I thought you were going to make comments after the people spoke. We have quite a number of cards for tonight. Do you want to make comments now, or do you want to wait till later?
Yeah, just a few comments. First, I'd like to address the information that was presented about the library and the library staff. I think that I serve as the liaison to the Library Board of Trustees, and it is indeed true that after our meeting on October the 10th of 2013, we were presented with a plan that indicated $25 million in cuts to our budget. That also included a 7-cent reduction in the tax rate. At the library trustees meeting, I made them aware of that plan and that conversation. I think that any information and now the Library Board of Trustees is made up of volunteers as well as staff members. So that is where that information came from. It was based in fact. You can go to the video of the meeting on October the 10th at 18 minutes on part 2 and hear the discussion where that was talked about. Later on in that meeting, Jason snapped his finger twice and said, I can cut $15 million out of the budget just like that, just like that. We went on to our meeting on December the 2nd of 2013. We received another plan that called for $13.3 million in cuts to our budget and a reduction of the tax rate by 3.5 cents. At that same meeting, when we discussed what those cuts will be, I asked the question, tell me what those cuts will be and how it will affect services that we provide to our citizens. The answer that I got back was, Commissioner Morris, you have not been able to say no to all of the special interest groups that come to us and ask for money, like the senior citizens, the library, and the parks. I can give you the time and the minutes on that comment also. Later on, we received another plan, which I think we now refer to as Plan C, which called for $9 million in cuts in our next budget year, plus $3 million and change in the following year, a total of $12.5 million. That Plan C called for a 1.5 cent reduction in the tax rate. So we've gone from 7 to 1.5. At our special meeting, once again, I asked, what does that mean? What will we have to cut from the budget in order to accomplish that plan? I was given a list of items that Jason had identified as potential cuts, which was $4.1 million. Later on, that list was distributed to every commissioner after those cuts had been evaluated. And of those cuts, 1.03 million had already been taken. 2.9 million could not be taken because of laws and statutes and mandates from the state or the federal government. So that left us with $151,000 on that list of $4 million that we could evaluate. In other words, things that we could talk about potentially cutting. So once again, my question was, what will we cut to meet the requirements of this plan, and how will that affect the services that we provide to the citizens? At our special meeting last week, when I mentioned the $12 million in cuts, the answer I got back, well, we will only have to cut $7 million to meet this plan. And upon questioning, that is without a tax cut. So now we've gone to 0 tax cut. Staff came up with alternative plans exactly as were demanded by the motion that passed at our last regular meeting, and they showed us the things on our list of services that are published in our budget and published on our webpage, as we discussed last week, are broken down into several categories. Some of those are mandated services and mandated funds. There's one category that is discretionary services and discretionary funds. Obviously, discretionary services are the things that we have to look at to cut first. They prepared a list of what $2.8 million in cuts in that area would look like. The response that came back was, this is just a show. Again, I asked, well, what would we have to cut? The answer that I consistently get is, well, tell me what you're going to do. Tell me what your plan is. I never get the answer as to how these plans affect our citizens. I explained in great detail what I thought my plan should be, and my explanation of that is I don't think I should have a plan. I think we should have a plan. I think that all 5 commissioners should work together to create a plan that meets the needs of Cabarrus County citizens and keeps our tax rate as low as possible. I think that's what we all strive for. We have gotten ourselves into a situation with our schools. You know, there's been an awful lot of discussion about what has happened in the past and how we have debt, absolutely. And I think that we have a good list of things to show for what our debt is for. As we've talked about before, about major purchases that we make on our personal expenses. If you're buying a home, it is not unusual for most people sitting in this room to have to get a mortgage to pay for that home. That's what we've done. We have taken out a mortgage to build schools, and we have built schools of a quality that we hope will last the citizens of this county 50 or 60 years, or perhaps even more. Some of the buildings we're currently using are older than that. We've been told that money has been wasted on those school facilities. They have been built to excess. I cited from a report from the John Locke Foundation, a very conservative North Carolina organization, at our last meeting that talked about some of the counties that were spending large amounts of money on school facilities. Included in that article, they had the list of the 5 most expensive schools built in the state of North Carolina, and they had a list of the 5 least expensive schools built in the state of North Carolina. When I quoted that information at our special meeting last week, I made a mistake. I said 3 of the least expensive, 3 on that list of least expensive schools in the state of North Carolina were Cabarrus County schools. After the meeting, when I went back and looked at the list more carefully, it was actually 4 schools. 4 out of 5 of the least expensive schools in the state of North Carolina were in Cabarrus County. One of those schools was Winkler Middle School, which has been cited repeatedly as an example of excessive expenditures. I do not think that our Board of Education nor the folks that work to build those schools should be penalized if they can deliver a product for Cabarrus County that we're proud of and proud to show off, that looks good, that's in the lowest 5 cost-wise in the state of North Carolina. So I don't see, we've gotten ourselves in a position now that we have approved items on a bond referendum to meet these school facility needs. Yes, bonds increase debt. There's no question about that. I think we have clearly demonstrated the need for both additional school facilities as well as some replacement school facilities in the county. In the past, and I think still today, a bond referendum gives the voters, the people of Cabarrus County, an opportunity to vote yea or nay. They have an opportunity to approve those bonds or to deny them. I think for us to make statements, which I have heard made from this table, is, well, the voters are not well enough informed to really make those decisions. We know a lot of things that they don't know. I think that's invalid. I think that's the best opportunity for us to get involvement from citizens, is to give them the opportunity to tell us, yes, we agree with you, we need these school facilities, and we think this is a reasonable way to fund them. Or no, we don't agree with you, and then we have to go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to supply those needs for the young people in our community. You know, we have now set up a situation with the bond referendum that we voted on at our last meeting that I think has absolutely no chance of ever passing. We have chosen 2 projects on that bond list from a long list of needs that were supplied to us. Both of those projects are in the same geographic area of the county. They do not provide any needs for the outlying municipalities, Harrisburg, Midland, Mount Pleasant, even the city of Concord. I think both of those projects are within the city limits of Kannapolis. Then at the same time, included in that motion, was a provision to the Kannapolis Board of Education that if you will withdraw your request for this bond for your new middle school by May the 31st, then we will guarantee that we will borrow money short-term to fund that school. Given the likelihood of that bond being able to pass, I think if I were on the Kannapolis Board of Education, I think I'd jump on that deal and I would accept it. So then we're left with one elementary school, probably one of the smallest, I'm not sure how it ranks size-wise, but I know it's one of our smaller elementary schools in the county, will be the only item on that bond referendum. So it is very unlikely that it will pass successfully. So what I have asked for all along, and what I continue to ask for, and I think what some of the people that are in our audience tonight want to hear is, tell us what it means. Tell us what these different proposals mean. We talk about, I've heard a lot of talk about transparency and accountability. And so this is our opportunity to be accountable to the citizens that we are elected to serve by explaining to them, this is the direction we're going, this is what it will mean to your services. You know, if we go out and say, we're going to cut your taxes, we're going to reduce your debt, we're going to create a surplus to build your schools with cash, and we're not going to have to cut anything to do that. That is a brand of magic that I don't understand how it works. But that is some of the conversation that we've heard. So all we're trying to do is, first of all, the only reason that we're having these discussions outside of our normal budget process is because of the motion that was made at our last meeting that said, staff is directed to come up with alternative plans, and if they are not able to do that by our April board meeting, then we will proceed forward with Plan C. Plan C is the one that I mentioned earlier that calls for $12 million in cuts over 2 years. So, you know, it really pains me to hear criticism of the staff for doing exactly as they were directed. So I don't think that there is any conspiracy. I don't think that when you try to educate and inform voters of what's going on, and this, I promise you, this is not a plan or a conspiracy by anybody up here. We're following the directions that were laid out by that motion that passed at our last meeting. Were it not for that motion, we would be proceeding down the road in a normal fashion towards our budget. Our budget public hearings are scheduled to begin in early May, mid-May. The same process that we go through every year. So the only reason that we're deviating from this path was because of demands that were placed on us and on staff by the motion that was made at our last meeting. I don't think that, and now that has caused staff to have to speed up the process quite a bit and do a lot of the work before they've had the opportunity to go through the normal steps that they go through to meet with department heads and do the research that they need to do. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, for us to get out here and say, okay, well, the cuts that were presented to us are things that are not valid. You just pick the things that might stir up people or get people to come and talk about it. So if not that, then let's talk about what they would be. If there are other areas, if there are inefficiencies in our staff, in our budget that we can identify and cut, I'm 100% in favor of it. I think that's what our job is, to look at as great a detail as we can at all of the activities of the county. If we're providing a service, if we've got staff and the citizens are not benefiting from those services, then we shouldn't be doing it. We should eliminate it. So, I don't understand the comments about certain commissioners trying to steal the election away from the people. When we are transparent and we are accountable to the people, I don't see how those comments could be made. And I've talked way long enough.
Well, let me help you.
Wait, Jason.
Nothing that I've ever done has gotten County Manager Mike Downs to send out a memorandum that says, first and foremost, I want to apologize for any false, inaccurate, or misrepresentation of factual information that may have been distributed from you, from the county. So I understand why you don't understand the transparency argument, because you don't live in the transparency world. You live in the world where memorandums like this get sent out after you behave.
Which, let's wait a minute. That memorandum went out because you disagreed with the first versions of it too, so you kept pushing for what you wanted in it. But we have all had a chance to speak. We have 39 comment cards that are going to take us a good while to get through. That's somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'd like to get started. These are in no particular order. I would like to ask a favor. There are a lot of people in the room. There are people standing that are probably going to get tired if you're not already tired. There are a few seats up here at the front if any of you would like to come up and have a seat. And there's also it's downstairs in the rotunda. The cameras or the televisions are on in case you are not planning to speak and you'd like to be able to have another space. I would ask that comments be limited to the 3 minutes. I try not to cut anybody off because I don't want to be rude to you. I have stood in front of that microphone before, and though I will smile at you and hope to make you at ease when you're standing up there, I understand that sometimes standing up there and the cameras are on, that's an issue. This is a live televised meeting, so I would appreciate it. Also, I'll say that, not that I'm expecting anything, we do have children in the room, so if you please will be careful with any comments you make, any outburst. When that goes off, because for some of you, you will finish before your 3 minutes. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Some of you will get all the way up, and that's going to be beeping down on you. When that happens, can you please wrap up quickly so that I do not have to call time on you? I really don't like to do that, and I'd like to give everybody a chance to say what they come here to say, okay? So I would appreciate your help in that, if at all possible, okay? Again, these are in no order. I was just handed a stack, so I have a feeling that we'll be going back and forth on both sides of issues. So, the winner for being here, one of the earliest ones today, and the first one up, Dakita Vandenberg Johnson. And you'll come up. I also want to apologize. I did not learn phonics very well, and I apologize profusely if I mispronounce your name. If I do, will you restate your name when you come up so that we can make sure that everybody knows who you are? So I happen to know her, so I got hers right. So thank you.
Chairman Poole, members of the commission, County Manager Downs, and as well as staff. When I got here today, I picked this up, and there was something that spoke to me here. Our vision statement. To tell you the truth, I'd never really thought about what Cabarrus County's vision statement is. Let me read it so we can refresh all of our memories. Our vision for Cabarrus is a county where our children learn, our citizens participate, Our dreams matter. Our families and neighbors thrive. And our community prospers. As a lifetime resident of Cabarrus County, I've seen this county grow through collaboration and through harmony. In the past few months, I have seen something I've never heard before, and I've seen it again tonight in this meeting. Discord. It's behavior that is unbefitting a group of commissioners like you. You're supposed to represent all of the county's interests, and I understand that, but it's through collaboration that we make things happen here in Cabarrus County. I ask that you address the budget proposals so that the citizens can address and make an educated decision when it comes to May 6th in the primary. Our future and the future of our children depend on this county getting along, this commission getting along, our folks going out and making Cabarrus County the wonderful place that it is to live for everyone. I ask for that decency and that collaboration. Thank you.
Next, Troy Barnhart.
Commissioners, I am Troy Barnhart. I live at 8501 Franklin Street East in Mount Pleasant. I have two concerns this evening. One is the Mount Pleasant Middle School. I do not want to see that school leave Mount Pleasant. I also have concerns about the construction of another building on the existing 23 acres of land with the students attending classes in the existing buildings on the same property. Mount Pleasant uses each sports field this location for its youth baseball, softball, soccer, football programs, and we have no other parks in our part of the county. You as commissioners have always overlooked our side of the county for public parks. If this building is constructed on the same site, we will lose our youth summer programs and fall programs for 2 years or more. The second part is the budget. Plan C of the Cabarrus County budget. $15 million is the carrot dangled at Mount Pleasant in order to build a middle school. I ask that we be treated like the western part of the county. It takes $21 to $27 million to build us a new middle school with the technology and design as other middle schools built in Cabarrus County over the last several years. Our students deserve the same equality as other students in other parts of the county. They should not have a school that they would not be proud of and want to attend. Commissioner Ostrandrich, Meesmer, and Burridge voted to the motion to move our county towards cash-only systems. We're paying for schools. In order to do that, many services will be discontinued or greatly reduced, as reported by the staff in Part C to work. The seniors and veterans should be knocking at your door because you want to change their way of life in Cabarrus County. The citizens of Mount Pleasant should be knocking at your door because you want to reduce or to close the library. All of these groups are upset with these three of you who voted for this plan, and I am too. Now that you have seen what it would cost you at the polls, you have backpedaled and said, let us go through the budget process like we have in the past. These cuts may cost you the election on May 6th. You started this mess. You should take ownership of it and tell us how your plan is to be accomplished without all of Cabarrus County citizens suffering so you can make a point. Please stop treating Mount Pleasant like we don't count. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Dennis Johnson. From Kannapolis?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Chairman Poole. My name is Dennis Johnson. This is my lovely daughter, Elena. And I guess everybody can hear me. I made some notes here, and I'm not ready to come up here yet. Elena is homeschooled. We decided to take her out of the public school system approximately 5 years ago, along with also her brother, which was in 1985 or so. We took him out of the public school system and homeschooled him. He is currently a Marine. He's stationed down at Camp Lejeune. He's been serving this country for 10 years. I'm very proud of my daughter. She is a worker. She just got her driver's license, and in 2 weeks she'll be starting her full-time job, where she worked last year part-time, and she pays taxes at 16 years old. Very proud of this young lady. She pays federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare. That says volumes right there. Anyway, I know that so part of the big hubbub and what we're here for is the school system. Well, although my children don't participate in, I pay taxes. I pay the full boat, property taxes. I got a few toys and this and that. So I cough it up. And I don't mind, as long as we're getting what we're paying for. I learned a long time ago that buildings themselves do not teach people. People teach people, and we need good teachers, and we need the parents to back up the teachers. I know this for a fact. The main reason I took my son out of the public school system is because he came home to me one day and he says, "Dad, we need to be nicer to the trees." And I said, "Okay, pal, that's it. You're out of there." And I took him out of that school within 2 weeks. He was gone. It wasn't easy, and of course we had a curriculum to go by, and you don't just wing it. You have rules and regulations, and the state actually dictates how you can do this. Same thing with Elena. She is a hard worker. She's awesome. She has a job. She has her car. I had my notes, but yeah, within a year she'll have her private pilot's license. She's going through a course up at Rowan, and that's no cheap deal. I got to cough that up very, very regularly. But it's all about her, guys. Everybody, it's all about her. It's not about us. Most of us are going to be dead and gone before even the debt is paid, most likely. And then we're going to throw it right on her shoulder. This is exactly where it's going. So I got 11 seconds left. I appreciate all of you. I know that you have a difficult task ahead of you, and I commend all of you. But mainly, I commend my friend, Mr. Ostrike, Mr. Burridge, and Mr. Meismer, because you guys you stand together as 3 into 1. And I appreciate it, and I support you. Thank you very much.
Luck on your pilot class. Next, Rick Starnes.
Chairman Poole, County Commissioners. I've got a question here tonight. I think we all have eyes and ears. I'd like to know who runs this county. Is it Cabarrus Jobs Now, or is it our county commissioners? It wasn't that long ago, 4 years ago, a prominent Democrat that is the treasurer of Cabarrus Jobs Now really put it to our then county manager to be fired because he didn't move fast enough on David Murdoch's bonds for his infrastructure. I'm just wondering now, we got 3 candidates that is supported by this same political figure. We have Diane Honeycutt, we have Lynn Shue, and we have Grace Minot that is supported by Cabarrus Jobs Now. Again, I'm wondering who's going to run this county if either one of those are elected. It just takes one of them to control the county commissioners after May or when they take office in December. That worries me because I've heard one of those candidates say, "Hey, we're going to have to raise revenues here in the county." Well, as you all know, that's just a code word for raising your taxes. That's exactly what's going to happen. This same group also has been admonishing some of our county commissioners for not offering tax incentives to companies coming here. Well, we just had 2 big ones. Buyer Philip Morris, no one offered any tax incentives for them. And they're here. The Philip Morris was bought. And just recently, one in Copperfield, a large shopping center, no tax incentives were offered to them either. It's like Commissioner Ostrike said, That's number 9 down on the list of priorities for when a company considers coming here. So that, that bothers me, is that our debt is going to be increased. One of those candidates also said that, we built 3 or 4 schools at a time. Let's do it again. We can do it again. Why not pay as you go? Why not do it a year at a time? Our students are important, our teachers are important, but why is the emphasis always on buildings and not teachers and students? That bothers me, and that bothers a lot of others, people here that pays taxes every year. And we could do a better job on that. I noticed out in the home, there is your county mission statement. Through visionary leadership, it starts out this way: through visionary leadership and good stewardship. And that's not going on until just recently. I was just talking to someone who his father-in-law was a county commissioner 20 years ago, and he says the same old story. We're going to shut down the library. We're going to shut down the senior citizen center. That's ridiculous. It's the same broken record, and this was the same thing that just happened 2 years ago. So, let's get real. Yeah, for sure, come together and let's help the Cabarrus County taxpayer and not burden them with building 3 or 4 schools at one time. We can still serve our students and teachers and do a good job at it. Thank you.
And I apologize, I'm not going to get the last name right because I can't read your handwriting as well. Reagan is the first name. I'm going to say it's either Braden or Brogdon. Village. Okay, thank you.
I have her comments if you would like to hear them. If not, we can move on.
How about it when we finish, if you'll give them to Ms. Smith and she can make sure we all get them? That would be great. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Crystal Swayze.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Swayze. I was born and raised in Cabarrus County, and since that time, 100,000 residents have joined our population. 100,000 population. Do you know what we have to do when we have more residents come? We have to build schools. We have to pay for sheriffs. We have to have infrastructure added. So when you say that we have all of this debt, I would like to remind you that in 30 years we have added 100,000 residents, and some of you are those as well. I am a small business owner. I'm also a parent to 2 young children. I am on the PTO of that elementary school, and I'm on the SIT team, which is the school improvement team. I sit in meetings day after day with those teachers, and they are near tears. It is because they are overstressed, they are overworked, and they are not supported by folks like you. Last year, Steve Morris offered up a motion for 1.5% increase in the supplement. He could not get another of you to second that motion. Shockingly, Commissioner Meismer halved that motion to 0.75%. When you come back and you tell the teachers that you're supporting them, yet you offer pennies to them, you are not supporting our teachers and our schools. As I do not believe this board that is currently seated cares about the future of our children and our teachers, we need a board who is willing to make Cabarrus County a competitive workforce with their supplemental salaries to ensure a brighter future for our children. We have surrounding counties that are thousands of dollars more in their supplements alone. Why would I not go to Mecklenburg County versus stay in Cabarrus County? That is a sad fact when we have always had the best school system in our community and area. For years, our school systems have had the forethought to build long-standing schools. As Commissioner Morris said, since 2009, we are 4 of the 5 lowest school buildings. Yet you question our Board of Education, who it is their job to bring to you the needs of our schools and our educational system. For example, with Mount Pleasant, they asked for $22 million. You shorted that by $8 million. For your cash plan to work, how can you look at the people of Mount Pleasant alone and say that you shorted them and they will not have the money to build a school anytime soon? Then you ask the staff to make cuts based on your cash plan of $9 million. They give you recommendations, then you choose to back away from the budget until May. Conveniently, that is after the election. But I come before you as a citizen, and if you aren't going to raise taxes, you aren't going to cut these services, and you haven't told us what your cuts will be, how will your plan work?
Next, we have Kimberly Strong.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me this time to speak to you tonight about the discussed closure of the county senior congregate nutrition program. I am Kimberly Strong, and I am the Executive Director of Cabarrus Meals on Wheels here in the county. I am also a concerned citizen and a taxpayer of this county. The senior nutrition program is one of the many quality of life programs that has been discussed to be cut. Incentives may be number 9 on the list for businesses to come here, but quality of life programs are right at the top. We cut them, and we're going to cut ourselves to close the county down. Seniors are an important part of our community. Our seniors have built this community, literally on the sweat of their brow. It is our responsibility to ensure they are not going hungry. 312,000 seniors in North Carolina struggle with hunger. We make a difference in our county every day. Congregate meal service is a service where a meal offering 1/3 of the recommended daily dietary allowance is provided in a group setting. Congregate meals help to keep our older Americans healthy and prevent the need for more costly medical interventions. Besides meals, services include nutrition screening, education, and nutrition assessment. Programs are to keep them active also. The program also presents opportunities for social engagement and meaningful volunteer roles, which contributes to the overall health and well-being of our seniors. Services are available to everyone who is age 60 or over, and to also individuals with disabilities. The cost of feeding one senior for an entire year is less than spending one day in the hospital. If we are able to keep our seniors healthy, they will be an integral, active taxpayer for a longer period of time. If the county congregate meal program were to close, my program, Cabarrus Meals on Wheels, will be affected also. We could see an increase in seniors who need to have meals delivered to their homes. We are a private 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our funding comes from the United Way, individuals, fundraisers, and foundation grants. We do not receive county funding. There's only a limited supply of funding for us. I am fearful that if the county program is cut, we will not be able to meet the needs of all of our seniors. We strive to reach all who need us, but with a lack of funding and a shortage of volunteers, we will not be able to fulfill our mission. Our county meal program assists our seniors to stay active, eat healthy, learn about proper nutrition, and allows them to have meaningful social engagement with others. This is a great cause of concern for me if this were to close. Our seniors deserve better. They have earned better. Thank you.
Next, we have Mayor Dale Udy.
Good evening, Chairman, Manager, Commissioners. My name is Dale Udy. I'm the mayor for the town of Mount Pleasant. It's been an interesting meeting so far. I'm not exactly sure what is worth saying or not at this point, but I am here on behalf of our community to oppose Plan C of your financial plan and your budget and all the closings that it would involve. Those services are instrumental to our community. I can't imagine our library being closed and how it would affect our kids and our families there. And I can't imagine our senior citizens group being closed. That place is utilized every day. I've been invited there several times to speak to them on behalf of the town. And it's just really sad to think that even these things would be considered. And even the ones in Harrisburg and Midland, which is our neighboring community. So there again, I want to thank you for your time to speak, and we are opposed to Plan C, your financial plan. Thank you.
Next, Walt Kiefer.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, it's been a long time since I've been in this chamber, 25 years or better. Swore I'd never come back. My comments, I'm kind of like Will Rogers. I just know what I read. And some of the things I heard a lot of comments, good comments from these commissioners, Mr. Morris and all of them. But I may give you what I've written down. I may change my mind on some of this, but I doubt it. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you this evening. I come this evening looking to you, our county commissioners, for explanations, not scare tactics of our county management staff. This is the same kind of rhetoric we get out of Washington, and we don't have the ability or the means of printing money like they do. I do want to personally thank Commissioner Ostrich, Burridge, and Meismer for the work and efforts they have and are putting forth, trying to develop a plan with solutions for fiscal responsibility while reducing our county's out-of-control debt. You just cannot get out of debt with further borrowing. Contrary to what some folks believe, bonds must also be repaid. We do not need any more if there is any other way. If there's any other way. This county has a good tax base. Our county manager and staff should put forth more effort collecting delinquent taxes. There's pages full of them. Looking for fat in department budgets. Start looking at these departments around April and May and see where they're spending the money. They're spending because if we don't spend it, we won't get it next time. Our regular working citizens and seniors are paying more than their fair share for the services they receive. Some that I know of, neighbors even, have personally had to sell their homes because they could not afford to pay taxes. I also know other people that have their personal property, their cars, their boats, registered in other counties and other states so they do not have to pay personal property taxes in Cabarrus County because they're so high. Our county debt is far too excessive for our children and our grandchildren to have to pay off. Another consideration that I have not heard mentioned recently is our water supply. The buzzword for growth far exceeds our water supply in the future. This is neglected by the buzz, just another problem for future generations. Every week in the newspaper, we read announcements of new businesses. We recently just read the Phillips Morris property being sold. Hopefully this new business will come and pay their fair share. In closing, I see written where some of the candidates going about complaining, criticizing, kicking a can, and all. Stand up. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next, David Hampton.
I'd like to say I'm here now because I have a few concerns that I would like to voice. I was employed by Cabarrus County for over 32 years and served as EMS director for over 10, so I have some experience in the budget process. At last week's work session, when presented funding plans exactly as requested, you, Commissioner Ostrich, obviously didn't like the numbers and potential cuts and called it a big show and just a scare. You've been asked numerous times what needed to be cut from your plan, and to this point, all we have heard was a few items here and there. Where is the transparency in the plan that shows required cuts? The numbers and cuts you were presented were only pertaining to plans E and F, nowhere near what would be required to fund your plan C. You obviously don't believe that these cuts would be required, but you offer no reasonable explanation where these can be achieved without other than using some pot of gold containing surplus hid somewhere. I can tell you department budgets have been scrutinized for years and trimmed as much as possible, and there's no excess there. A few years ago, we were asked to look at a 5% across-the-board reduction. The only way we could accomplish this within EMS was cutting an ambulance with crews. Thank God we didn't have to implement it, but Plan C would require an over 8% across-the-board decrease, and I can't even imagine what that would require as far as cuts. We keep hearing all these numbers in Plan C, but what do they mean in terms of money in your pocket? And one example is based on Plan C, next year's tax rate would drop from 0.7 to 0.68. So someone with the property value of $150,000 of $150,000 would be saving a whopping $22.50 on their property taxes next year. I don't think the citizens are willing to risk services or programs that enhance their quality of life for this plan. I feel time would be better well spent trying to develop ways to recruit or expand business in the county, thus increasing the tax base. Developing a county budget is a one-man show. It obviously takes a team from all departments and experts in their respective areas, along with county management and the entire board of directors or board of commissioners. You have been condescending to current staff, along with current and prior board members when opposed. And do you really feel like this proposed action or the way that you go about it will help develop the solutions you so frequently talk about? You stated to the citizens of Cabarrus County the government has failed you. Obviously, the county government is doing something right. You decided to settle here. Not too long ago, was it the tax rate you complain about? The luxurious schools or the county departments that constantly receive awards for performance. And there are quite a few citizens that do think the same way. How do you expect positive change while exhibiting high level of negativity? Start doing what is best for the county and not just what's best for the campaign. I continue to be proud of Cabarrus County employees and the great jobs that they do regardless of what they're being faced with. It's time to stop the negative politics that is dividing the county and getting us nowhere. I'm sorry, Commissioner Osterreich, but quite frankly, if this were a private business and I were your supervisor, I would recommend dismissal on grounds of your unwillingness to work with others, creating an intimidating work environment, and for creating more problems than solutions. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ronnie Long.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you all for the opportunity for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm Ronnie Long. I live here in Concord, just over the hill. We've heard a lot of back and forth on things. I want to be just real short and sweet. We would appreciate the commissioners working to try to do everything humanly possible to hold our taxes as low as possible, but still provide the necessary services to our community. We've been promised by at least 3 of you that those services that have been talked about being cut will not be cut, and I believe you in that. So we ask now that you would just hold the line on the spending, hold the departments accountable, ask them to do their very best in bringing a reasonable budget to the commissioners for their approval. And above all, please do everything that you possibly can to hold the debt down and to do everything that we can to reverse the spiraling debt that we have had. $500 million in debt is an awful lot for a county of 182,000 people. We need to work on getting that amount of debt spent or brought down as quickly and as fast as possible. And again, thank you so much for all that you all are doing, all of you. We appreciate you being up there, and thank you so much.
Our next speaker, Risa Treadaway.
Good evening. If you can't tell, I'm from Mount Pleasant. And I hadn't planned on speaking today, but I got real passionate and I may get in tears because Mount Pleasant means so much to me. And you guys are shortchanging my school. I moved there in 1999. I am still a volunteer at this school. I cook hot dogs every single year at that school, and I cook it under the roof leaking. The school has buckets, and I appreciate you planning on building a school, but why $15.5 million? Why are we shortchanged? What is it about Mount Pleasant that's shortchanged? We deserve everything that everybody else gets. And Commissioner Morris, I appreciate the fact that our schools are the lowest. We have 4 in the system that is the lowest in North Carolina, and we can build that school, and we can build it for the same thing that Kannapolis is getting. $15.5 million shortchanging my school, my community. I've had some of the residents say, let it be. You've got the ball running. That we've got the commissioner saying they'll give us money, but they got the ball running. I played sports, I've coached sports, and my flat ball doesn't roll very well. So I'm asking you to support us and give us what you gave everyone else. It is my school, it's a community school, and we deserve everything that we should get. Thank you.
Next, Bobby Park.
Hi, thanks for having me. When the commissioners voted on the budget in 2012, there was a lively discussion where Commissioners Poole, White, and Caruth shared their fears that if they did not pass the 10% property tax increase, the following services would be gutted: libraries, parks, Cooperative Extension, veterans programs, paramedics, and of course, senior service programs. At the surprise pop-up meeting last week, the finance staff reported with great alarm and certainty that the very same services would be gutted if we did not increase taxes. Do we see a pattern here? And just in case anyone missed the meeting, within hours, Cabarrus Jobs Now blasted out an immediate, fear-based email, making sure everyone knew our county would have to cut all these important programs. I have 5 points to make. The same Cabarrus Jobs Now that sent out the email has within it a political action committee that is backing Diane Honeycutt. I'm sure you've all seen all her commercials on just about every station. That much airtime is not cheap. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, she and Alex Rankin, a staunch Democrat, started that organization. We have not and we will not lose any services. In the past 4 years, we have amassed about $50 million surplus, a little over $10 million every year. In the 2012 meeting, one of those commissioners said, if you're not willing to look to see if things can be done better, you stay in a rut. You have to look at things, a different way of doing things. Well, we've done things the way the big spenders have dictated for years, and we most certainly are in a rut of overspending, increased taxation, and emotional manipulation. Our property taxes have gone up 25% in the last 10 years. Our debt has increased at double the rate of the federal government in those same years. We are almost $1.5 billion in debt, and still no plans have been made to build the schools. I suggest we do see if things can be done better. Let's consider the path Commissioners Meismer, Burridge, and Osterreich are exploring. This is the first time in memorable history we have a conservative majority board. Let's keep them.
Next speaker, Missy Jones.
Oh, heavens to Betsy. Third grade teacher retired.
Please. Wait, I'm sorry, you need to, Miss Jones? I need you to come in, no, you need to face, this camera's going to get you. I understand, but I need you to.
I want them to hear me.
They'll hear you if you're talking to the microphone.
They have got to put on their listening ears. I had to remind third graders.
I understand. I just want to make sure you're on the camera and that everybody can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you for 3 minutes. My name is Missy Jones. I live in Mount Pleasant. I'm a retired teacher of 32 years, and I'm on a very fixed budget. I'm extremely proud of Commissioners Burridge and Meismer. They have worked tirelessly with their time on the board for the citizens of Cabarrus County, especially small businesses, owners, and seniors. I'm extremely proud of Commissioner Osterreich, who has spent more than 2 years coming before the board, asking about taxes in particular, and of course having the numbers to back himself up. No other challengers have been attending commissioner meetings for the past 2 years. I'm extremely proud of Commissioner Burridge, Meismer, and Osterreich for finally being able to attack our debt of almost $500 million. That's a lot of zeros. I cannot imagine the hours spent going back through financial records for almost 20 years, finding the debt owed, tax raised, and so on. But then I'm not a numbers person either. I am extremely proud that we have commissioners willing to work so hard at the expense of being vilified for doing the right thing for the citizens of Cabarrus County. I'm extremely proud that these commissioners will stand up for the citizens of Cabarrus County with dignity and, believe it or not, good Southern manners. Sitting in a Board of Commissioners meeting, I heard quite plainly more than once, because I had my ears on, that these commissioners are not going to close, cut parks, libraries, senior citizens, emergency services. Can you believe that? Because I'm really glad because we have an ambulance station in Mount Pleasant, and I'd hate to have them cut that and me have a heart attack and die. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Jean Griswold.
I sure don't have that personality that she has. Thank you, Commissioners. It's so good to see you tonight, and we really do appreciate every single one of you at that table. My name is Jean Griswold. I live in the county just south of Mount Pleasant. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's what all the voters in Cabarrus County should be saying tonight. When I watched the video of Bob Caruth at a commission meeting in June 2012, deliberately casting fear in voters by threatening the shutdown of libraries, parks, the Cooperative Extension, and all senior programs, as well as laying off paramedics, I was taken aback by the phraseology, which was so much like what we heard several times last week during the special budget meeting. The county commissioners who voted to increase our taxes in 2012 bear a burden of shame for what they did then in striking fear into the hearts of our citizens. It raises the very real question as to why there was so much of the same rhetoric at last week's special budget meeting. Simple explanation: it worked before. Big government proponents know that fear is a huge motivator, and they expect it to work on us again now. We know for a fact, as stated time and time and time again by Commissioners Osterreich, Meismer, and Burridge, that they are not going to allow such cuts. So why does this deceit continue to persist? Every time that a failing policy in Cabarrus County is brought to the public's attention, we immediately see that fear tactic come back into play. Shame on certain members of the county leadership and certain sitting commissioners for using the same tactics and in much the same words as were used in 2012. What sane and thinking voter is going to believe that when the tactics being used today were proven to be deceitful the last time they were used? It's time to stop the fear tactics, please. It is also time to take a hard stance on reducing our overwhelming debt. A $500 million debt is ridiculous for a county of our size. Commissioners and staff need to use common sense and put laser attention to detail toward every dollar of income and expense, just like every citizen of this county must do within their own home budgets, to ensure that this debt is reduced in an orderly manner, thus freeing up substantial funds that now go to pay debt service, that is, interest on our debt, and allow those funds to be used for real service provision. In addition, the same scare tactics mentioned earlier allowed the then-sitting commissioners to burden us with a tax increase in 2013. The voters in my household, and there are 3 of us, urge you not to put any plan in place that will implement an increase in property taxes. We urge you to go through the budget process in the way that it is protocol that it be done. We urge you to work closely with the county staff and then make the appropriate decisions when all of the needed information is in place for proper decision making. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker, Gloria Tadlock.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm not going to be long, and my husband is here with me, Donnie and Gloria Tadlock. We're taxpayers in Cabarrus County. It's been a very interesting night to sit here and listen to everything that's been said on both sides. But I just want to say for myself that in this county that we've got to be accountable. And we've got to weigh out, do we really want to go in debt more than what we already are? And is there a solution, and can we all come to a solution in Cabarrus County? I'm not a great speaker, and I'm not going to stand here and pretend to be, but I like the fact that Jason, when he outlined for everybody, he made it possible for us to see as Cabarrus County citizens what's been going on, like when you have the property valuations and, they're going down, yet the tax went up on the property. Something, I just don't see how that could make sense to anybody in Cabarrus County. And I believe that, everybody here wants to do what's right. But what is really right? Do we not live within our means? Do we not learn that we don't need to be in debt, that we don't have to have such horrible debt and interest to be paid for many years to come? And I think that the citizens of Cabarrus County, and to be honest with you, I think America needs to look at what they're doing. The debt is overwhelming everywhere. And we are supposed to be people that know how to live and stay within budgets. We're supposed to be financial people all over America and in Cabarrus County who really want to do what is right, not just before man and before people to please people, but to please Almighty God. I mean, he said that we should love people, not owe debts. Yes, sometimes you have to go in debt to buy a home. We understand that. But you can't buy 10 homes. You need to just buy one at a time. And I guess really what we need to do is just sit down and weigh out what it's going to take to build things. If you need money for schools, let's get the money for schools, but let's don't go into debt and spend $50 million on interest. I think we're smarter than that in this county, and I am really proud of you all for taking a look at the whole thing. And I believe that Jason has opened the eyes of a lot of people. He has been like, he's not a yes person. He's the kind of person who wants to do what's right, and he really is looking after what the people in Cabarrus County want to see, and that is, let's forget about increasing debt and find ways to get out of debt. Don't we want to do that in our homes and in our personal life? And so, I'm not here to come against anybody in particular in any way, shape, or form. I just want to say, can we look at what we're really doing? And I believe that everybody here really wants to do what's right. So let's take a different mindset and let's look at it from God's perspective as well as what we need to do. And thank you for allowing me to talk.
Next speaker, Tracy Bingston. Tracy Bingston.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to clarify something in the beginning. Commissioner Morris, I've heard you say on multiple occasions that we need to do so-and-so for our citizens. I just want to clarify that we are not your citizens. You are, in fact, our commissioners, and you do represent us. Some are trying to scare us by using county employees to scare us into giving into your continued taxing, spending, and borrowing. The families of those employees know, however, that the additional taxes and debt will fall on them and their children as well as ours. You have finally run out of other people's money. Your tax, spend, and borrow policies have failed. It's time to make a plan to spend responsibly, to meet our needs, even give raises to these employees, but without sucking the rest of the money out of our families and our community. There are plans on the table to do that. Stop wasting our money, stop raising our taxes, and stop borrowing. Stop trying to scare us. We are smarter than that, and we deserve better. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker, David Bingston. I would presume that you are married.
Yes, that's my wife.
It's nice of you to let her go first, or that's how I got the cards.
All right, my name is David Bingston. I'm a small business owner in Cabarrus County. We're almost $50 million in debt. And I was just reading an article from March 12th of 2010 in the Independent Tribune where this board at that time laid off 65 employees because they didn't have the money to pay them, in part because of the service on the debt. If we add and add and add to our debt, we will come to a point where interest rates rise and we will not have the money to continue to pay our employees. So all the schools will have to cut people at that time because the county won't have the money to do that. And yes, we do have to grow, but those 100,000 people that you mentioned that come into the county are taxpayers, and they bring revenue. They bring businesses which pay taxes as well. The problem is the growth of the people coming into the county is far less than the growth of our debt. Where is the additional money going? Why is the growth of our debt so much higher than the growth of our population? One more thing, tax cuts work. They bring businesses, they bring growth. North Carolina General Assembly last year had across-the-board tax cuts. Last week, they announced that we added 20,000 employees to the state for the previous quarter. In North Carolina, right now, we are number 2 in the nation for the reduction of the rate of reduction of unemployment. Tax cuts work. Debt prevent us from being able to cut taxes. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Jenny Brasfield.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm not a speaker, so I hope you will be with me. My name is Jenny Bracefield, and I've lived in the country for 47 years, and a resident of Cabarrus County for 25. I got interested in the Cabarrus budget after seeing what our Washington bureaucrats have done to this country by borrowing from China and also printing money, trillions of dollars in debt. The Bible says the rich rule over the poor, and a borrower is a servant to the lender. I was at the last commissioners' meeting and was shocked to hear someone saying that if we don't borrow the 100 million, they propose that they may have to close libraries and senior centers, eliminate critical services, when that was not what was proposed. We are all pursuing the same goals, what is right for Cabarrus County. What you say and don't say are both important. Proper speech is not only saying the right words at the right time, but it is also controlling your desire to say what you should not say. Examples of an untrained tongue includes exaggerating and lying. Before you speak, ask yourself, is what I am to say true? Satan uses the tongue to divide people and pit them against one another. We should not be careless with what we say, thinking we can apologize later. Before you speak, remember that words are like a fire. You can neither control or reverse the damage. True wisdom can be measured by the depth of a person's character. You can evaluate your wisdom by the way you act. Foolishness leads to disorder, but wisdom leads to peace and goodness. We are all pursuing the same goals, what is right for Cabarrus County. All I want is for you to possibly not only reduce the $469 million debt, but also find ways to provide the needed services and cut wasteful spending. I have 2 friends who are teachers in Cabarrus. One was shocked at the elaborate columns and brickwork in the middle school. Buildings don't teach, teachers do. The friend commented about the low pay for teachers compared to South Carolina. There should be some way that teachers can voice their opinions without fear of losing their position. I am sure each department in Cabarrus County can cut their budget by cutting out unnecessary, wasteful spending. Like at the end of the year, if they have not spent their entire budget, they go and buy items just so they spend what they were given in case they will not get the same amount next year. A better way would be to award the leaders of each department a bonus for operating their department more efficiently by coming in under budget. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Flip Benham.
Madam Chairman, members of the County Commission, I want to give you a word from the Lord. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I say? I will show you what he is like, who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice. He is like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. And when a flood came, the torrent struck that house but could not shake it because it was well built. But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, it collapsed and its destruction was complete. There's an easy way to do things. There's an easy way to borrow. But God said that the borrower is the slave of the lender. And God says to us, owe no man any debt but the continuing debt of love. We are plunging our kids into a debt they can't deal with. We can't even deal with the debt that we have because we have been a part of receiving this debt. And now you want to give them more debt and lay a burden on them that you can't even bear. That's why, sir, Mr. Morris, as I listen to you, you have a dizzying intellect. It's almost like deja vu. I remember in 1988 standing before a school board in Garland, Texas, just northeast of Dallas, listening to a man talk exactly the same way with the same kinds of words. And I wondered, where did that come from? Where does he get that? Where does that worldview come from? And it's something that's inside of you, sir. You see, God is saying, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? It's very clear that money for you has become the answer for everything. You see, that's a sign of God's curse in Ecclesiastes chapter 5. God tells us that. And he tells us this in 5:10, Ecclesiastes 5:10. He says that he who has money never has enough money. Sir, this is not about money. This is about building a foundation. It takes longer, it's harder. And it takes you and I to put on our big boy pants and do what God has called us to do and to trust him, and he will make those things that we think impossible, possible, because he is Almighty God. This is his word. This is the truth. It's something that you've forgotten. Don't forget this, please. In Jesus' name, God bless each and every one of you.
Amen.
Our next speaker is Mayor Kathy Kitts.
Thank you for having me tonight. The citizens of Cabarrus and Midland want to know some things that relates to the cash plan. As we stated in our letter that we asked for the items that we are been tirelessly working for over the years, Wallace Park, the Midland Library, and Central Cabarrus High School's repairs and changes. We want to know, how is this cash plan that's being discussed, has it been used in other counties or other municipalities? Has it worked? Has it failed? I haven't heard one word about that. All I've heard is we want to know that the citizens that are speaking on behalf tonight that are not in support of this plan. Mr. Oshers, we would also like to know, what finance background do you have? I know that you're a lawyer, but I don't know, do you have finance government backing, finance government training? Do you know how to prepare a budget that the county staff has prepared year after year after year? Have you learned about that? The other thing that I would like to know is, in your motion in March, you stated you didn't want to be disruptive to the budget process, but you are being disruptive to the professional staff that this county has employed and trained and brought back to create the budget for years. And you're also calling our professional staff lazy at the last week's special meeting. You are being disrespectful to the staff, and I believe you owe them an apology. I also want to make sure that, to me, it seems when I was watching the video and some of the other things, that you're a bully. Come out as a bully sometimes. And you know, it's not fair to this staff for you to treat them that way. Few of you say you won't allow the libraries, senior centers, or parks to be closed or not built. With the cash plan, you will have to take and make some cuts. It's been said tonight all along. And the more that you base the numbers, more than we look at the numbers, there's items that will have to be cut, whether we want to or not. It's an election year. You guys can say all you want. It's when an election comes up, there are things that are said that in reality aren't true. Because you sit there and you say, we won't cut this, we won't cut that. When the budget comes down to the final numbers, you may have to make cuts. And it's just reality. We all have to do it. We do it in Midland. We cut things and we look to say, okay, what can we afford? What do we have to do? And that's what we do every year. And we have professional staff that helps us guide us through this. And I think that's something that you need to look at. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Alan Dobson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners and staff. As you said, I didn't come with notes, and I was inspired to come by what I read in the paper. I'm a physician in Mount Pleasant. I've been there 30 years, which makes me almost a native of Mount Pleasant. In fact, about 10 years ago, they stopped calling me the new doctor, and certainly the young doctor. One of the first things, I saw Dr. Johnson here earlier, I think he's left, but one of the first things we learn in medical school is first do no harm. And as I'm thinking about libraries and all the difficult decisions you have to make, I just wanted to point out that the libraries and schools have always been a partnership between the county and its citizens and its municipalities. Mount Pleasant's no exception. Mount Pleasant Library was built, the land was given, the building was built with private money, citizens, and given to the county to operate as a library because we thought it was needed. Same with the ambulance stations, by the way, and that was spoken to earlier. What I would tell you is that it's really important to make smart choices, and particularly appreciate Commissioner Meesener, reassurance that we're not going to close services, but you've got a tough job ahead of you. So what I would say to you is that be very, very careful because it's hard to get things back once they're moved, and I won't comment any further other than to say I've always said that I've been proud to call myself from Cabarrus County. I'm not so sure I can say that tonight with the amount of emotion. So I would say to you, I would call for you to have civil discourse in these discussions. They're all valid arguments, and above all else, do no harm.
Our next speaker, Gene Chandler.
Good evening. My name is Jean Chandler. I have been on the Cabarrus County Advisory Board for almost 7 years, along with a lot of other committees that I serve on. But tonight I'm not here to represent those committees. I am here as a citizen. And as some of these, I've been up here several times, and you all know that. As some of these people that were up here for the first time, it's not easy to stand here. And I have notes, but I'm saying this from my heart tonight because I appreciated the Bible scriptures. At every one of our meetings and at every one of your meetings, you open with prayer. And this is what the people need to do. They need to pray about this. Don't cast criticism. Pray. And the Apostle Paul said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I try to remember that in all the decisions that I make. And I want to tell you that in 2012, the commissioners that were here then was Ms. Poole, Cabarrus, and Jay White. They took the Department of Aging away from us. I'm a 68-year-old senior, and I'm here to represent the seniors. They took it away with the 3-2 vote. Even though they pretended they listened to us, we had this place packed, even more than it is tonight. Nobody listened. Ms. Poole listened, but she voted in the opposite way. The only ones that voted in our favor was Mr. Meesmer and Mr. Burridge, and we appreciate that. At that time, they showed that they cared about the seniors and they cared about the citizens. Every time I came to these meetings, it was always a 3-2 vote. When Jason became appointed back in the fall, that 3-2 vote changed. All of a sudden, they had to account for things. Mr. Downs has been at our meetings, and I've asked him when all this was going down with the Department of Aging repeatedly. I asked for figures. You making a big deal about this thing about where are you going to cut? Show me where you're going to cut. Well, I asked for figures. I asked for details. It was the same answer. I don't have that with me. I don't have that in front of me. Well, you know what? Mr. Osterreich does have it in front of him. Chris and Larry, they do have it. They can give you these details. This is what is breaking my heart. Last week, a 73-year-old senior, and like I say, that's not much older than me. I'm 68, and I don't mind telling it, came to me and she said, someone called me and said they were representing the commission board and that they were telling them that they were going to shut down the senior center. And these seniors, why do you want to stress the seniors out like that? You know, it's a shame. All of you are going to be seniors one day. Why do you want to stress them like that? And I know my time's up, but I've got to say one more thing. This thing about saying that Jason is a bully, what did you do to the seniors in this county in 2012 when you took our senior center away and you put us under the Parks and Rec? Thank you. The last thing I want to say is thank you for your attention and God bless America.
Our next speaker is William Morris.
Good evening, Commissioners. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and I just want to make this short and sweet and respectful. I think that everybody tonight has heard a lot of rhetoric, and I think that what we need to fall back on is principle. Lower taxes, less spending, less debt. I don't understand why these things are so hard and difficult for people to understand. All this debt is going to go on my kids, my future kids when I have those kids. And I don't understand why, as a county and a commission board, that you want to put all that debt on my future kids. I come before you tonight and just ask you to lower my taxes. Give me more money in my pocket. Let me spend that money the way I choose to. Don't take it out of my pocket to give to you, to give to others. Let me do with my money the way I see fit. Please, lower my taxes. Spend less money. Go through the budget. Let my kids have a future. Let everybody's kids have a future. Let us build the schools with the cash we have. Let us look to the future for just thinking about $21 million to $40 million for a school. I'm sitting here thinking, how in the world, how much of that money can we use for other things? How much of the budget could we have for other things in this county if we were to spend that money wiser? If we were to cut some things out of that great big humongous school and give to the other schools. There's a whole lot of cash laying around, $14 million surplus, correct? Let's use that money somewhere else. Build those schools with cash. Stop spending. Cut my taxes. Give me more money, because that is my money. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Sydney Shawley. Sydney, I apologize if I got that wrong. I think I probably did because you grinned so big. So will you pronounce your last name correctly?
Shawley.
Oh,
You're
it's a
fine.
miracle. It's a miracle.
Okay. I'm not really sure what's going to happen next with Plan C, but I am against it. My name is Sydney. I'm 14. I live in Mount Pleasant. I went to Mount Pleasant Elementary School and middle school, and I now go to Concord High School, which is a magnet school, and I'm in the IB program. I depend on the Mount Pleasant Library for my IB schoolwork. I use the Mount Pleasant Library for research on the internet and printing papers and working on projects for school. I get a lot of help from the staff there, Miss Laurel and Miss Carol. I just finished reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and I use the library to get the book and the audio of the book and extra research on that book to help with my IB program work that I had. And if anything bad were to happen to the library, it would be a struggle for me to continue doing well in my ELA and civics classes. This library is really close and personal and really close to my home and to myself. My little brother and I, we are a part of the summer reading program since we were 3. We definitely enjoy it a lot. We attend a lot of programs there, and we care about the Mount Pleasant Library as a very important part of our community. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matthew Honeycutt.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. That's Honeycutt with a U. If anyone is from Stanley County or Cabarrus, they know there's a difference. We can't spell correctly. I live down the street off of South Union. I live right on the Greenway. My wife and I just adopted a 6-month-old. She texted me today, a picture of them out on the Greenway. It was awesome. The last thing I would ever want is to see something to have our parks to close and that Greenway gated off so she couldn't walk down it. So I wouldn't be here speaking tonight if I was really concerned about that occurring. I am a controller for a large company in Charlotte. I wish it was in Cabarrus County because my commute would be a lot shorter, but I'm in Charlotte. I manage a budget of about $272 million a year. When I first took that position 3 years ago, excited, I'm a young guy, I've hit my career goals, I've made it, I'm there. The first thing they say to me is, oh, by the way, you have to cut 5% a year or when the lease is up, this place is moving to Tennessee. Okay, I'm at that point, I was 28 years old, scared to death. I've got, let's see, we have 175 employees who 3 years from now, I'm going to have to tell under my watch, I got your job relocated to Tennessee. So again, first thing I was scared. The first thing I did was I looked at the obvious things. There were big lines on there like labor and insurance costs and all this stuff that those are the easy things. We just got to lay off 20 people. It's easy. And I'm a young pig-headed guy who thinks that that's the easy answer, that the easy answer is right there. So I started talking to everybody, telling them, hey, this is what's going to happen. We got to cut out these 20 heads. Head count's the answer. Head count's the answer. Cut insurance. Cut insurance. Pretty soon, what I had was a mutiny on my hands. You know, everybody who was older and much wiser than I said that won't work. I got in a lot of trouble with my bosses for not approaching things the correct way. And since I'm in a private company, I can get in trouble for not doing things the right way. So again, what I learned from my mistakes, and we started looking harder. We started looking deeper. I'm proud to say that we moved the facility across the street last year, not to Tennessee. We saved the company $7 million over the next 10 years of the life of the lease by looking at things harder, making hard decisions, and not always doing the easy things. We rolled up our sleeves and worked hard, and I believe that you guys and our county staff can do the exact same thing. We're not asking you to close libraries, close parks. By all means, I would be up here screaming you guys if that was the thing. That's the reason I moved to South Union in the first place. We're asking you to look harder, make the same cuts that we're all making ourselves on a daily basis. Thank you again for your time.
Our next speaker is Scott Noel. It's good to put a face with an email.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much. And to fellow Cabarrus County residents, my name is Scott Noel. I've been emailing the Board of Commissioners and the Cabarrus County Board of Education for about the last 3 or 4 months now on multiple topics. And one thing I will speak about specifically tonight is an example of this, but I really think it applies across the board to many things as we can apply to this debate and this argument overall. And one thing we keep hearing, and I brought a few visuals, just a couple simple things. There's a lot of A and B, and these are not meant to represent plans, sorry, in all due respect, Commissioner Osterreich. Just A and B, the options that we're looking at. We've got A and B and it's both sides, and there's not a lot of give and take on that. We've heard a couple of people say tonight, think about things differently, consider what else might be out there, and I think what's difficult to see is that C option. Pardon the bad pun, but it's difficult to see because if we're fighting ourselves and we're only looking at what we want to see and what side do we have to promote, and I see merits in both sides. I will readily admit I'm an independent voter. I see merits in both sides, absolutely. But how do we look at things differently? And one approach in that is some green schools. And again, all due respect to you, I believe you said trees earlier for your son. This is not about just that. The sustainability in green schools, this is something that can be applied to all things within our county. And we've been talking about that in multiple areas. It's about being economically prosperous, environmentally sound, and socially considerate. And what that means is taking a look at everything, and there's practicality in the numbers. There's a school in eastern North Carolina that's been built that is a net positive school. There's leasing options that actually get it to about the same price. We've been talking to the board. I'm going to share some more information. Been talking to the Cabarrus County School of Board of Education, as well. They've been looking at that, and I've asked the board and all of the officials in the county to please work together to look at those, to find some solutions that are out there, because there are a lot of things. There's a lot of very well-educated people, well-informed people that can make these things work. They're real now that can be moved forward. And these schools actually, think about this of the debt burden. I would like to pay cash for schools if we could, if that's a viable option. As we look through everything, that would be great. But look and see where things land. And these schools, the net positive energy schools, means that they actually make money down the road. This is a savings of energy. It's teaching our kids, and I know, again, with all due respect of, she's still here, the woman that said buildings don't teach, teachers do. Teachers absolutely are critical, and I believe I have a lot of teachers. There's some in the school in the area as well, but buildings do teach, especially green energy, net positive schools, because they have things around STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math that are critical to learning for our students, because they have real life examples in front of them to learn from. Now, I don't say go spend $40 million, $50 million on these things, but there are actual practical leasing options that are coming about today that are possible to look at. So please consider those, and please work together, I ask again, with the Board of Education in the area. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Denver Walker.
Good evening. I'm glad to be here to talk to you a little bit. I won't be as articulate as some of them have been. My name is Denver Walker. I live at 10,000 Mount Pleasant Road, Midland, North Carolina. First off, I'm just basically fed up with the false rhetoric that's going on around here about the libraries, the Senior Citizen Center, and other critical services to the county and so forth. Such as, are you going to, they're going to be closed or going to be cut back, that Mount Pleasant Middle School will be underfunded and be basically a box with old furnishings, no sports facilities. Anyone who can reason knows this is not true. The county government and the general public making such allegations are sadly mistaken. I would like to hear and see a plan that will work towards bringing down our debt, not adding to it, and at the same time take care of our needs and not all of our wants. My understanding is that 3 of you have a plan. However, there are 2 who seem to have a lot of resistance towards it rather than coming together. I heard someone mention earlier that we needed to work together. Well, if we've got a plan here, why don't we have all 5 people come together and hammer out the differences and get her done? Just get her done, okay? And here's another question. Why is it that every time someone who works to actually hold down our tax increases for the people, the big spenders come out of the woodwork screaming like stuck pigs? Everyone on this board is supposed to be working for all of the people, not special interests. Those of you with deep pockets who wants to take What I've earned and spent is spending under the guise of saving the seniors and the children. First, dip into your own pockets. It seems our children and seniors are always used as pawns, okay, and to get the public support for raising taxes. As you can tell, I qualify as a senior, so don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to spending for our needs. However, I am very frustrated with our county government, as it seems their answer is always, let's throw more money at the problem rather than come up with viable solutions. We need to work smarter with what we have. You can always find waste in any organization, so why should the county government be any different? A case in point about Midland, building a treadway along the Rocky River. That money could have easily been used to build a library, but they're building a greenway, which is part of Agenda 21. For the future of Cabarrus County and our people, including my 14 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren, the decisions we make on our debt and obligations will have a major impact for generations to come. We can no longer accept the idea if the county needs additional monies, we just automatically raise taxes. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sam Treadaway.
Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening, and I want to thank you in particular for your time and energy. I know you put in a lot of hours that we aren't aware of for the public service of our county. I thank you for that. Excuse me. I am Sam Treadaway. I hail from Mount Pleasant, but I'm here before you because I had the opportunity, the good fortune to work at Mount Pleasant Middle School for 12 years, which meant I spent a lot of time trying to keep the heat in and the water out. The school is very near and dear to me. In fact, with the exception of my family and my church, nothing is more important to me. That project will go out to bid, so the marketplace will be represented there, but the ed specs are going to be controlled by us. I just want to make sure that we have a quality school. I started teaching in the days when air conditioning was seen as a glamorous thing that was not really needed because I didn't have air conditioning in my school. Why do the kids today need it? I just want to make sure that what is sometimes seen as extraneous, that we take into account the things that our students need. The only disadvantage I had at Mount Pleasant Middle School when recruiting good teachers, and there's been a lot of talk about good teachers, was the facility. Our community, our town, our support for the school was unmatched. But the one thing I always had to compete with were the schools in the western side of the county, because walking through our facility was very different than walking through the facilities at other parts of the county. I don't know, I'm not an accountant, and I'm certainly not capable of understanding about the libraries and the senior citizen center in our part of the county as to what will happen to it. But I do know this. If you have a pie and you make one slice of that pie bigger, another slice is going to have to get smaller unless you enlarge the pie. I just think we need to really be clear before our election as to what we're voting for. And I know we've talked about a lot of things, but I do believe in the power of arithmetic, and that's really what we're talking about. The other thing I will say is this, and Mr. Downs, I apologize, but Mr. Downs I've known for a long time. I've known him as a parent, I've known him as a supporter and a community servant. I've never confused Mr. Downs as being Chicken Little. And I just worry about when we want to point fingers at the messenger, that concerns me. I'd like us to focus on the issue at hand, and especially the money and the arithmetic. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Timothy Flowers.
I'd like to thank you for listening to all of us tonight. And like one of the other gentlemen said, he wasn't planning on being here for 25 years. I'm sure all of us has got something else we'd rather to do than being here tonight, except for you guys, and you're supposed to be here. A lot of things I'll say you've already heard, but I'm here to support a budget, a debt reduction budget, one that reduces our debt while meeting our needs. And two, I'd like to address the rhetoric, and I'm so tired of it. It's the same scare tactics. So, I'm so tired of hearing about the libraries and seniors and firefighters and all that, because none of these cuts, none of you guys are going to cut any of that. You're not going to fire people. You're not going to, that's clear. It's been said we're not going to do that in any of these plans. And we've seen it year after year. With no cuts, the libraries will close. Or tax increases, if we don't have tax increases, the teachers will lose their jobs. We need to borrow more money or the schools will close. Well, we raised the taxes. My taxes went up, and we had a $13 million or a $14 million surplus last year. And some of you guys look like, you act like you hadn't ever seen a budget before. I saw you last year's budget and the year before that budget. And I think 2011, a lot of us went through the budget and offered cuts. And Mr. White said, thanks for the trouble, but we're going to go ahead and borrow what we're going to borrow. We spent time to do that, and it's like my house. You can make cuts. When it gets tight at my house, we don't go out and eat on Saturday or Friday night. We don't go to the movies. There are places that you can make cuts. We had that surplus, and, it's math. We had a $13 million surplus. That $13 million was budgeted somewhere. So look and see where it was budgeted. We didn't spend it, so don't put that in this year's budget. That's $13 million cut out of the budget right there. That's just adding and subtraction. The special interest groups oppose debt reduction. Back talking about the teachers, we talk about the teachers, and we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional admin and principals and didn't bring on new teachers or give them more money. The special interest groups that fight the debt reduction and oppose, and the opposing commissioners and commissioner candidates don't seem to want to lower our debt because they don't think $500 million is a problem, or they don't plan to lower the debt, or they just don't see that we have a spending problem. The opposition to the debt reduction budget says the new budgets in the commissioners, the three commissioners, are catering to a single special interest group. Well, they're right. These three budgets are aimed at one special interest group, the taxpayers, and we're tired of groups like the Chamber, Jobs Nows, Realtor Associations, and David Murdoch's hands in our pockets. Only one example of this is a health department that cost more than 2 times its original estimate, that's on land that was taken from the citizens in a place as far from the center of the county that you can get it, and it's $1.5 million that we pay for it every year. And when they were making this plan, the 65 jobs were eliminated for this health department. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Donna Higgs.
Good evening. My name's Donna Higgs. I live in Kannapolis. And I think the overriding theme of the evening is that we as citizens of the county and the state are very tired of having fear-mongering tactics thrown at us. I'm tired of hearing the same thing from our federal government, from our state government, from our county government. So I think that if we can stop doing that, that will make a lot of people listen more to what is being said, to the content of the debate. And our federal government has levied about 440 new taxes on us this year. The city of Kannapolis, as well as Cabarrus County, will also increase our taxes on property by reevaluating the property value but not adjusting the rate. Our government is supposed to protect our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Being overtaxed affects all of these rights. The best way to incite the voters and gin up the Americans is to start talking about cutting our teachers and our emergency responders and our police and our fire department. So I think that there are plenty of other low-hanging fruit that can be cut. So let's stop with the rhetoric of the with the voters, and let's get down to working together and coming up with a budget that we can all live with. But I need my money to pay for my family, for my property, for my children, for my grandchildren. It's my money, it's not the government's money. I go out every day and earn that money. So when you take it, I'm not paying my taxes, you're taking money from me. You're taking money from my family. So you are affecting my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Vince Powell.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Vince Powell. I'm a Cabarrus County resident, property owner, public school educator for 17 years, husband of a school counselor, a small business owner, and a proud father of 4 children in Cabarrus County schools. The oldest is with me tonight, my 5th grader. I come tonight to thank you for finding creative funding solutions that will not raise the tax burden for me or our Cabarrus County senior citizens. Specifically speaking, I am supportive of any plans to lower the tax rate when the scheduled property reevaluations take place in 2 years, as well as your plan to seek alternate financing to fund school construction instead of jumping into a massive bond referendum. Recently, much has been written and said tonight, as it would be, about senior citizens in Cabarrus County. So I'd like to tell you something about the most important senior citizens in my life. That's my parents. My parents, like many seniors, are on a fixed income. Their income has not had a significant raise for years and does not look to increase for the foreseeable future. Currently, they pay their fair share of taxes to Cabarrus County and shouldn't be expected to pay more. As property reevaluations take place, their property taxes are scheduled to increase up to 10-15% in 2 years. What's next? 20%, 25% in coming years? I ask you to please consider all the senior citizens who have lived responsibly off of fixed incomes for years and should not be expected to pay more in taxes. Please do not ask some of our most valuable community members to bear the burden of increasing their taxes to pay for a $100, $200, or $300 million bond. It's obvious that many seniors in our community should not have to even think about re-entering the workforce to pay for an additional tax burden for a massive bond. Commissioners, I'd also like for you to realize the enormous burden that borrowing to our maximum capacity will put on taxpayers. Currently, we use 21% of our annual budget to service our debt. If the county borrows the total amount requested by Cabarrus County Schools alone, not even counting Kannapolis City or RCCC, that's about $280 million. Instead of finding creative ways to finance these projects, the overall debt service could be as high as 35 or 40%. People may not realize that debt service is a principal and interest on the bond, and it has got to be paid back first. Before we can pay police, we must pay debt service. Before we can pay firefighters, we must pay debt service. Before we can pay teachers, we must pay debt service. All flexibility in spending goes away with that level of legally obligated debt service. At the point where the county is paying up to 40% in debt alone, it leaves you without choices. The choice to pay teachers more is gone. The choice to fund more parks is gone, and the choice to hire more public servants like police officers and firefighters is gone. Commissioners, please only consider a budget plan that will reduce our county's debt and reduce the tax rate in 2 years. That will be the most clear choice. Thank you.
I apologize, I cannot read the first name. The last name is McManus. Thant?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm educated, I just don't write well.
No, you're okay. I think you learned how to write like I did when I was taking a foreign language class. Because if I could make an O or an A look the same, I thought I'd get credit, which worked.
It worked.
Back in the day, but I just wanted to make sure.
Apologize for my
No
writing.
problem.
First of all, I just want to say to you that leadership by nature brings criticism. You know, no matter which way you lead, somebody's not going to like it. And it seems like we're pretty divided among opinions tonight. Looking around, I'm probably one of the older folks here. I remember when the argument centered around Cottle Creek. It was just a mud puddle. And now it's a reservoir that we get our water from. There was a lot of foresight that went into that. A lot of people couldn't see ahead and argued with it. I just appreciate you being willing to lead. That's what I'm going to say. I might not agree with everything you do, but thank you for being leaders. I think one of the things that I've heard tonight that we do agree on is that we need good governance. I don't think anybody's arguing that. It needs to be effective. We need to have efficient agencies. And in many instances we have that. I'm really proud of our county and the way and she treats its residents. I have a question, though, and a few comments. The first question is, are we at peak efficiency? I've heard a lot of numbers. I tried to put on my listening ears. I wasn't in your class, but I've heard numbers like 49 million, 50 million, $500 million. Are we $500 million in debt? That's the question. It's a short answer. Give or take a few hundred million. Are we right now $500 million? Okay. 469. That's pretty close. My question is just this: are we at peak efficiency? Have we strained to find it? We need good stewardship where everybody wins. I'm happy to hear every commissioner that I've heard speak has said they want to have efficiency. And I want to ask you if you can commit tonight to finding any waste. If it's there, would you find it and get rid of it? Just get rid of that. It's a good start. Prudent budgeting. Why are we talking about the library or the senior center? I appreciate you elaborating and saying you're not cutting it and nobody here is. But why would we start with things that people can't do without? And just a question for you, Mr. Morris, not to single you out, but you said that you didn't have a plan. I hope I'm not misstating what you said, that you hope everybody came up with a plan. But do you personally have anything that you see that is waste that you could do without? Are you presenting that? I just ask everybody to do that. Find it. You guys are smarter than I am, smarter. There's a lot of wisdom in this room too. Thank you for what I've heard. But do you have a plan? Do you have things that you can line item out? And then are we thinking long range? Are we willing to do what's difficult? We have a mortgage, I understand that, but it looks like now we have a $500 million mortgage. And I'm just asking you, let's don't mortgage our future. Let's don't add another $100 million or just without that being absolutely necessary. Again, thanks for your leadership. Thanks for your time.
Our next speaker, J.D. Hoag. H-O-A-G? Sorry, I was looking over here.
Okay.
Saw somebody move a hand. I thought it was over there.
My name is J.D. Hoag, and lived here in Cabarrus County for a couple years. I know we've done a lot of talk about budgets and debt, and me personally, I was actually in Mecklenburg County for a long time, and we had a lot of these debt talks about getting bonds. And I think the thing we kind of forget is that bond money does cost. People sort of think sometimes that it's sort of like a free basket of money. And there's a cost to it. We have to repay back those debts. And we talked before, a lot of people have hit these, so I'm not going to go into them too far. But, when you have debt, it keeps you down. It keeps you from being able to do the things you want to do. We talk about priorities and wanting to build schools and things like that. But again, when, 10, 20, 30% or more of your budget goes to repaying old debts, that shows that you're having to spend money on things that to spend back and to pay back those debts. That's money that can't be used to build schools, to pay teachers, to pay whoever. So, if we want these priorities done, whether we want to, like I said, whether we as a community decide we want to spend money on certain things, we can't do it when we have debt around our neck. And so to me personally, in my life, and as well as others, we have to prioritize what we do with our money. And when, like it's been brought up, if we have no money that's set aside for building new schools, an expense that we know continues and an expense that we know that will continue, it's not a surprise that new schools need to be built and repaired. And if we don't prioritize and put money for it aside, well then, when it comes up that time there is something that needs to be done, and we look at it and say, well, the only option we have is to borrow money, which then again, further takes away more money from other priorities. So that's, to me, that's my opinion, is that this is the biggest threat to the things that we want to do, both in our county and city and on the national level, is that when we have that debt, it keeps us and it causes us to not be able to put our money where we want to be able to put it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Amber Pope.
Hey. First, I want to start by thanking all of the commissioners. I've been corresponding with you, and now you can put a face to a name. I came tonight because I care so much about Mount Pleasant. I have 3 children. One is currently in 8th grade at Mount Pleasant Middle School. And when we went to his play performance in December, Ms. Stoker had to rope off part of the auditorium because the ceiling was leaking. Yes, buildings don't educate children, but the morale that you get when you go into a school and the ceiling is leaking while you're having your performance and your friends, your grandparents come down, that is not good enough for our Mount Pleasant children. I also worked at Hickory Ridge, which, if you have ever been to Hickory Ridge, which I love, it is a beautiful facility. It is the right kind of facility for Cabarrus County. And quite frankly, I know, and everyone sitting here and everyone out here knows that $15.5 million is not going to build us anything close to Hickory Ridge, to Winkler, to any of the good schools that we have in our county. I graduated from Central Cabarrus like Mr. Meesmer. He knows what that school is like too. I went to Hartzell. Anyone remember Hartzell? Yes. I went to the old Bethel with no air conditioning, and it was hot, and radiators in the wintertime. No, it is not acceptable to say, well, we'll give you a school for cash. That sounds great. And Mr. Osterreich, you have been so nice, and I will say that you emailed me back repeatedly, and I'm not trying to attack you at all. However, it's not enough. When I looked at the study that Mr. Morris sent me, thank you, and Mr. Osterreich sent it to me as well, the ORED study that the county is using, the school board is using this as well. It only projects 9 years into the future. It's already becoming irrelevant. Last month, Mount Pleasant approved a 64 multifamily unit apartment complex to go in. That is going to bring new kids to our community. No, Mount Pleasant isn't growing like the other end of the county, but it is growing. And right now, what is being proposed by the school board and what is being proposed by the county commissioners is a 702 capacity school with potential for 803 kids down the road. That's not big enough. The school is projected to open in 2017, if it can even go to bid, which we all know it can't. In 2020, our school capacity is supposed to be 695 students. That's 8 kids away from capacity. That's not even allowing, that's a 1%. I'm not a math person, I'm an English teacher. That's not good enough. It's not good enough, and it's not acceptable. And whatever you decide on the budget, you need to relook at Mount Pleasant Middle School and build it at the appropriate size for our community. Thank you.
Next speaker is Marcia Morris.
Good evening. My name is Marcia Morris, and I'm here in support of Mount Pleasant, so I wore my Mount Pleasant gold and blue, even though it clashes with my cool red shoes. So, I'm sorry if the fashion police are in the house. I'm really not a political person. I've never belonged to a political party. I have sort of a distaste for all that, but I care very deeply about my community. I care about government. I love my country. And I think that for a lot of us who kind of have this distaste for politics, what we'd like to see from our leaders is just plain old common sense. Common sense to me says that government works best at this local level, where the leaders know well the needs of the community, and where citizens have the ability, like I have tonight, to come and speak to all of you and to share my concerns. My concerns are for especially the Mount Pleasant Library and some of the other services that could potentially be cut. I'd just like to say I'm not scared. I've not been manipulated. But I know that in the past, the Mount Pleasant Library has faced budget cuts. Our services were cut back. And I do know that there are limited ways for y'all to cut the budget. So I just feel like it's important that we come here and say to you, this library, this community means a lot to us. And I think that we deserve to know what's going to happen. Common sense also to me says that we should fund and support the things that are going to benefit the most people. Things like libraries and things like schools. And those are also the things that are going to provide opportunity to people without privilege, without social standing. They're very important and necessary to our community. I'm a pastor's wife. He pastors a little country church, so I understand really well what it's like to have to work on a small budget or a fixed budget. And I know that sometimes you have to make difficult financial decisions. And I also understand that there are principles involved. And principles are very important things. But adherence to a principle without consideration for the people it's going to affect is to me misguided and sometimes just wrong. There are people in the Bible who got caught up in a principle without thinking about people. We called them Pharisees. They just kind of lost track of the people that they were supposed to be caring for. So let me just finish by saying, as they say here in the South, God bless all your little hearts. I appreciate all of you, and I'll be praying for all of you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bob Caruth.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Let me speak tonight. If y'all hear a thumping noise when I'm talking, just understand it's my rhino horn hitting the microphone up here. So, just make a few comments. I think that, first of all, is that I can say this, I think, without too much hesitation, that right now, of the elected officials, past, present, and future in Cabarrus County, no one else has dealt with as many county budgets as I have. For 12 years, almost an entire generation, I set up where you're sitting and had to deal every year with that balancing act that is a county budget. It's not easy, and I applaud you because you're in the arena. And I know sitting up there, sometimes I wish the ground would open up and swallow me rather than having to make a decision. But let's talk about it. There's a lot of things I could talk about tonight, but won't, because most people in this room have made up their mind one way or the other. They either support the plan or they don't support the plan. You know, when it goes to the root, obviously, the dissatisfaction the voters have with their government. We see the federal government out of control, wasting our tax dollars, putting our children in debt, and running roughshod over our property rights. We're angry. All of us are. When a day goes by, I don't get angry at what's going on in Washington, D.C. But you know what? People want action. But for that to be projected onto a county budget is akin to you going next door, busting out the kid's windshield next door because the other kid down the street is playing his radio too loud. You cannot project the national issues on a local budget. If you do so at your peril. Now, let me talk about let me just cut straight to the chase here because it's late. I find it, first of all, a little absurd that we talk tonight about somebody trying to steal an election when basically, the reason we're even talking about these budget plans like this tonight is because 10 people took it upon themselves to change the entire direction of this county government. 10 people. Never has a vote being taken. We've got a commissioner here that flipped this board that has never had to stand before the voters. 10 people appointed. Now, what I want to talk about, though, is that this plan, it has to come from somewhere. Promises are good. That's right. I appreciate the promises, but they're promises. If you don't cut it this year, when you run out of the rainy day fund the county has to pay for the budget deficit you're going to create because you didn't cut it, and this year you're going to eventually have to cut it, or you're going to have a massive tax increase to pay for the services. There's $15.6 million in discretionary spending in last year's budget. If you cut $12 million out of that, tell me what's not going to be cut that's in the discretionary budget. Simple, okay? Let me tell you this right quick. I want a quick comparison. I did it 10 years ago. The money you're going to save on your taxes, if you have a $200,000 home, the money you're going to save on your taxes under the worst case scenario plan C is this. Once every 2 weeks, you can go buy your kid a Happy Meal. If you have more than one kid, you've got to divide that Happy Meal. That's what we're not talking about. Trips to Disney. We're not talking about early retirement, putting a wing on your home, your house, being able to not have to avoid selling the car. We're talking about a Happy Meal. For that, I'll leave this here as a reminder so the people out there that are watching this tonight can understand the true impact of these plans.
Hey, good news. I am down to the last card, and that's why I was looking around the room. Is Dan Barrier still here? I don't know. Do you have any other cards? I went through every card. If you'll fill out a card, please. Honestly, I went through every single one. I don't know. But if you don't mind real quick, if you'll fill out one, that would be helpful so we have it, a record. Is Dan Barrier, I saw him earlier. Okay, I'm presuming that he left.
Perhaps we could have this nice lady come up and speak and fill out a card.
Fine, I just want, we need to have a card to have on file.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why I had asked to. And honestly, I did not skip a card, so I did not skip your card. I don't have another one. Can you tell us your name, please, and where you live?
My name is Tracy Brown, and I live in Cabarrus County. Good evening. We're fortunate to live in the Bible Belt. In fact, the Bible poses this question: for which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, wherewith he have sufficient funds to finish? Luke 14:28. Mount Pleasant Middle School does not have sufficient funds to finish it. I am here tonight as a concerned parent who lives in eastern Cabarrus County. My family lives in the Mount Pleasant Middle School District, and we have watched elected officials bouncing the proposal of the new middle school back and forth and around in a dizzying display. It appears that plans for the immediate present, without forethought for what eastern Cabarrus County will be in 10, 20, even 30 years from now, is the driving force behind many of the ready, fire, aim proposals that I see being offered as potential solutions. How many school-aged children will enter the Mount Pleasant district as a result of repurposing the Philip Morris plant? What about the new Copperfield strip mall or the 64 apartments being built near Highway 73? What other future projects will impact the population growth of this part of the county and therefore impact the need to build a proactive, appropriate-sized school that can sustain the future? Just because we can't see it today doesn't mean it won't pose an existing opportunity tomorrow. Personally, I don't support the cash plan budget that cuts out agricultural, educational, and quality of life programs. The proposed spending cuts, Mount Pleasant Library, Mount Pleasant Senior Center, Lomax Incubator Farm, Camp Spencer, Cabarrus Arena Event Center, mostly affect eastern Cabarrus residents. And although it's been said you won't gut the program, it hasn't been said that you won't cut part of the programs. Who, when comparing the amenities available to them, the eastern Cabarrus residents have always come up short when compared to western Cabarrus residents. They're definitely at a disadvantage. If I want to further my education, I don't expect you or anyone else to take cash out of your pocket or cash out of the county's pocket to procure my advanced degree. I would like a debt reduction budget, but I don't have a problem if the recipients of the quality education received from Cabarrus County schools bear the cost of their education as they grow up into adults in this community. School bonds are one way to accomplish paying it forward by shifting the responsibilities of those that will be the beneficiaries of resources being made available. At no time in my life can I recall the ability to borrow money at such low interest rates as what is available to the public in the recent past. Doesn't it make sense, if we have to borrow funds, to borrow those funds, locking them in at a lower rate now
than depleting our cash reserves only to need to borrow again in the near future at a higher rate. We know there's issues that need to be worked out. There's a perpetual cycle of spending and borrowing that takes place when a community is growing, and we're fortunate to be forward progressing. Tonight I'm here asking you to develop an acceptable and sustainable plan to find additional funding for Mount Pleasant Middle School in order to provide the same level of educational opportunities for my children as those living in western Cabarrus County. I'm here to ask that before you begin severing programs, you adopt a budget plan that avoids spending cuts so that there is justice and equality for all of Cabarrus County citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you filled out, if you'll bring your card over here, because your wife spoke earlier and took all the time and she didn't share with you. If there's anyone else that would like to speak, will you please fill out a yellow card and please bring it over, hand it to our clerk so that we can have a record. You can come on up. We need to make sure that we have everybody's name and everything, that's why. So, and you are Donald Tadlock.
I'm Donald Tadlock. My wife spoke earlier, excuse me. And I've sat here and listened to all this tonight. And in my mind, I've come up with a couple conclusions, and I want to tell you two stories. My father taught me one time when I went into business, when I went to work, he told me that I should live my life on 40 hours a week. And I know some of you guys have businesses, that I shouldn't live a life on overtime, because at one day in time, that overtime is going to go away. And if I've lived my life on 40 hours plus overtime, what am I going to do when that overtime goes? What am I going to have to cut? What am I really going to have to look at in my life to reduce? And that's what a lot of us are having to do, is that we don't always have 40 hours and that overtime has gone away. But when I hear about the budget spending and how far our budget is out of whack in this county and out of the federal government, our overtime is gone. It's time to tighten the belt and see where we can. And I respect these three gentlemen for looking at that, asking those questions. Where can these cuts come from? Because we as citizens have to ask the same questions of ourselves. And if we can't realize that and can't do that, then we got more problems than just the federal government or the county government here. And also I had a daughter one day that when she got out of school, she got her first checkbook. And after about 6 months, she started getting these NSF charges from the bank. And she says, "Dad, what's an NSF?" And I said, "Well, that means insufficient funds." She said, "Well, what does that really mean?" That means you have no money in the bank. She said, "Well, I must have, because I still got checks." And that's the way I see our budget. She didn't have any money, but she's still spending. And it's time to make those cuts. And not necessarily cut out things, but to ask questions. Figure out where we are. Where do we need to shave a little here, shave a little there? And as a committee, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Because we don't have it all. And we can't spend it all. Okay? So we're looking at you to make those decisions for us. And we don't have an endless supply of money as citizens of this county. So we have voted to put you in office to count on you to spend our money wisely. And that's where we are today. You know, I wouldn't have your jobs. I was in the industry for 40 years, retired last month, and I'm going to live off Social Security. Okay? But my CEO told me one thing: if you've got a budget, make sure you know what it's all about. Make sure you understand it, and don't come to me with a budget that you can't explain and you're not willing to cut some corners in it when the times get tough. Okay? And if I had you three guys, you'd be getting a promotion today.
And Commissioners, if you will look, starting on page 66 in your agenda, please. The next item we have before us is the consent agenda. So at this time, I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chairman, I would just like to say, I just want to say thank you to everybody that came. Whether you agree with me or disagree or called me a bully or said whatever you said, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for participating. This is your government, and this is tremendous to see this forum filled up with people, and it's just a tremendous blessing to us all to have this many people come and participate, and I really thank you. And on that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next we have new business. The first item we have is a proposed text amendment to zoning ordinance. You're going to speak on it first, and then we do need to hold a public hearing.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. This is the text amendment that we went over in the work session. There are 2 chapters involved. The first is for Chapter 6, and the second is for Chapter 7. The purpose of the changes, as we discussed, is to make some corrections and updates to the language in general in Chapter 6, and then in Chapter 7, to remove the references to the APF that we no longer enforce. The Commission voted unanimously on November 12th and on March 11th to forward these to the Board of Commissioners for final consideration, and you will need to hold the public hearing.
Okay. At this time, I would like to open a public hearing to hear any of those who wish to speak for or against proposed text amendments to zoning ordinance, text 2014-00001 and text 2014-0002. Is there anyone to speak for or against the amendments? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, do any commissioners have questions concerning these items? If not, I would accept a motion to approve the text amendments.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second. Okay, next item we have, the board is requested to set a public hearing on behalf of Cabarrus Charter Academy in order for them to fulfill the requirements of Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Codes of 1986 in regards to the issuance of charter school revenue bonds. What we need today is a motion to set a public hearing on behalf of Cabarrus Charter Academy at our regular meeting on Monday, May the 19th, 2014, at 6:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as may be heard. Do I have a motion to set that public hearing?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And the next item we have is presentation of alternative financial plans. We talked about this a number of times. I don't know if any commissioners have anything, or if the county manager has anything, any questions or anything.
Just the presentation was made, and just waiting to see if you have any questions. We are moving forward as directed with the typical budget process. That will be passed or handed to the board at your regular meeting in May. One thing we did ask for some direction on, if you're able to do so this evening, we have asked for the projected tax rate. And that would help us to make our job a little easier so that we know what we're working towards. But if you're not able to do that this evening, we will continue on. And currently, we are working with the projected 70-cent tax rate for FY15.
Commissioners, any comments, questions at this time? Okay. Hearing none.
I have a couple. It was talked about that reducing the tax rate would buy people a Big Mac, a Happy Meal once every couple of weeks. But folks, that's not looking at it from the perspective of why we originally started talking about this. We started talking about this because it had to do with jobs, and the tax rate was the number one factor that had to do with jobs. And so The very first vote that I took on this board was that wind shear vote. And what I came up and proved was that if we had left the tax rate where it was, that wind shear as a company would be much better off than if it got an incentive and then paid the higher tax rate. So it's not Happy Meals for our companies. Philip Morris just sold their property for $64 million. Do you think a 10% tax increase on $64 million doesn't mean the elimination of jobs? Of course it does. And so we need to think about it from how things like this impact our economy overall. I have tried tremendously to come up with a compromise on this plan. When I originally proposed it, all of the funding for the schools would come out of cuts, and we would immediately reverse the tax rate increase of 2013. In December, I worked through a different plan by which, instead of using expense reductions to pay for the cash for the schools, we went back and looked at expiring debt payments, and we were able to come back and very much reduce down the cost reductions that we would need and fund it with that. We also went back and said, instead of doing an immediate rate reduction, let's implement it over 3 years. Let's do 1.5 cents this year, 2 cents next year, and then use the revaluation in 2017. Commissioner Morris and I were talking. I said, listen, if you don't want to do the tax rate, let's just do the cash for schools. That's $7 million. That's a different thing that we can do. And instead of finding a partner to work with, they basically make fun of me for the fact that the plan has changed. And so he laid it out for 5 minutes and talked about, oh, Jason, your plan's changed, this and that. I've been trying to make compromises so that we could reach an agreement, but nobody wants to do that because instead they just want to borrow $100 million. With respect to cuts, Commissioner Morris again went through it tonight. I proposed $4.15 million. This budget that was apparently cut to the bone, right? I came in August. In October, I presented these, December actually, I presented these $4.15 million. And already they've been able to take $1 million of those and say, yes, these are good. I think there's more of that we can do if it moves from a staff decision to a county commissioner decision, because it's going to take a little bit. It's not staff's job to have the backbone to make these reductions. It's our job to have the backbone to make the reductions. It's our job to stand up and say, listen, there's too much money being spent here. I know this might hurt your feelings a little bit, but we can come down. So I think there's another $1 million there that can be reduced. But this is not a bare bones budget. If a 4-month-old county commissioner can come in and find $1 million out of a budget, and those are actually implemented, then we can do a lot with it. We just have to get people, if we could get everybody in staff to have the same motivation to make a plan by which we did not borrow money that they have for borrowing $100 million, we'd be done with this by now, but we just haven't been able to do that. I would like to talk to Mount Pleasant for a minute. If you go back and actually watch the January meeting at which we allocated that money, I said the same thing about both the new elementary school and Mount Pleasant Middle School. The school board did not want to tell us what they were going to spend the money on. They have a green policy by which they are going to go spend a lot of money on green projects instead of the teachers. I am not in favor of that. I want that money going to the teachers. So I looked at them and I said, you tell me what kinds of things you're going to spend this money on, and then we'll go from there. They did not want to do that. They did not want us to participate in that. So I said, listen, we both agree you're going to need at least $15.5 million for Mount Pleasant. So let's give you this $15.5 million so it's not spent on something else, because if it stays in our pocket, it will get spent on something else. So take this $15.5 million as a down payment, and then let's look at it. Come back to us. And I said the same exact thing with respect to the new elementary school. And if you go back and watch the video, that's what you will see. It's posted on my website, jasonostrike.com. You can go there and see it. I've had it up there for a long time. This is about finding ways to reach compromise, but I'm the only person that ever suggests compromise, and then I get attacked for trying to find a way by which we can start accomplishing some things. So I look forward to working with you all.
Are there any other comments concerning this item? Okay. Next, we have some appointments. If that is on page 422, Commissioners, if you want to find that in your packet. There are 3 members for the Agriculture Advisory Board, have terms that expired. 2 members are recommended for reappointment, and 1 member is recommended for replacement with a new appointee. So at this time, I accept a motion to reappoint Louis Souther and Bob Blackwelder to the Agriculture Advisory Board for 3-year terms ending January 31st, 2017, including an exception to the length of service provision of the appointment policy for Mr. Souther. And a motion to remove Macklin Sellers Jr. from the Agriculture Advisory Board roster and thank him for his service. And a motion to appoint Wendy Austin Sellers to the Agriculture Advisory Board for a 3-year term ending January 31st, 2017. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next, we have the Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee. We have an application from G. Tim Louder to serve on this board. So this time I'd accept a motion to appoint G. Tim Louder, at-large representative to the Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee to a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. You have a number of reports, Commissioners. And now we're at general comments by board members. I would presume that we've kind of exhausted that already tonight. Does anybody else have something else they want to add? I will add one thing, though this is an unofficial amount, but it's what I was told today. The 50th anniversary of the Mustang was here. I hope everybody enjoyed. I was out of town. Sorry I missed it, but I hope everybody enjoyed seeing all the Mustangs in town. It's my understanding that that event generated 7,000 room nights in Cabarrus County and had an approximate $6 million impact on having that event here. They're trying really hard to get them to come back for their 55th. And there were people who drove from California. They had an event in Las Vegas and one here. And there were people from California that drove right past Las Vegas. And the reason is they said there was greenery in Cabarrus County and they weren't going to see green things in Las Vegas. So they drove all the way here, and I'm sure you've seen it in, what's that? Sorry, I think they were making a comment over here. It was a great event, and it was attended by a lot of people, and I think that it made Cabarrus County look good. So thank you to everybody in the hospitality and tourism industry that worked real hard this weekend. Other good news, we do not need a closed session tonight, Commissioners. So at this time, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody. The meeting's adjourned.